Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the LitRPG Podcast. I'm Ramon Mejia. I bring you the latest LitRPG news, reviews, and of course, author interviews for the show. And this week I have the great and distinct pleasure of interviewing the author of one of my favorite LitRPG series, Lion's Quest. He is a New York Times, USA Today best-selling author. He's written over 19 novels and still going strong. His work has been described by his readers as awesome, great reads, amazing stories, and of course, true literary art. Welcome everybody to the show, and welcome Michael Scott Earle.
Thanks, Ramon. Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thank you very much for being here. I know you have a real big schedule. You have family. You have actual writing to do. So I thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Glad to be here.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks again. So Michael, we will mostly be talking about the Lion's Quest series, which is the LitRP series that you've started and had great success with. So congratulations on that. But
Thanks.
You've also written a ton of other stories. Like just looking at your Amazon author page, I'm like, I counted 19, but I'm pretty sure you've probably written more than that, just privately or other places. Can you tell me a little bit about your other series?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Ramon. I'm most known for my Destroyer series, which is like epic dark fantasy. I've also got obviously Lion's Quest does really good. I just came out with a space opera series. I've always really loved space opera. And that the first book's called Eye of the Tiger, but the series is called Star Justice. And that hit number one in space opera and space marine and space fleet and all these categories it hit. It's probably one of my best performing books so far. I've also got a dark comedy horror series called Hell High. I wrote the first book for a Halloween website. It took me 2 days to write it. I published it with a cover of a hot succubus on the front, picking up the main character. And I just threw it up on Amazon, and it's sold like crazy. So I wrote a second and third book, and I'll probably write that every now and then. It's super funny and got a lot of video game type references in there. I've also written a cyberpunk series called Concrete Chaos about about 80 years in the future. A girl who rides her motorcycle, and she's a bozuku gang, like the Japanese like bike riders, but they're in Silicon Valley. That's a pretty fun series. And then I've got a Rockstar Romance is it's kind of like a contemporary male harem fantasy series. It's modern day in Los Angeles based, a guy going to school and just having sex with lots of hot women. That's another one I wrote. And then I've got a City of Light as another series. It's a kind of a girl protagonist, police officer in a city, and she's got a magical cloak. She's a police officer that lets her fly around the city. The city is a floating island. It's really vertical. So to get around, they can fly around using the cloaks. And that's probably not one of my best-selling series, but like a lot of people really love it. So hopefully I'll be able to write more in the series. And then I've got a novella, short novel called Roseboy that is super, super dark. Despite the name Roseboy, it's a really fucking dark fantasy. Only a couple hour read, and people can get that for free if they want to sign up to my newsletter on my website.
Okay, perfect. That's a lot of series. Like you've written more than I think most people will write in their entire lives. And it's just somebody who's written one novel. I'm like, I can't imagine having written like 19, especially the pace that you seem to come out with yourself. Like currently, I think you're writing 2 books at the same time, and you're like finishing edit on like I think Lion's Quest 3 and what's the other one in?
I'm doing Star Justice 2. It's gonna be called Space Witch, but yeah, I wrote a lot of novels at the same time. I'll do like 5,000 words of one novel, and I'll switch the other one probably halfway through the day, and I'll probably try to crank out another 5,000 or at least 2,500 of the other novel, and that kind of keeps it fresh in my mind. Yeah.
My God, that's 10,000 words a day. I'm like, see, I'm seriously satisfied with like 3,000 words because it's a month for me. When I started full-time writing, going from 1,000 words a day as just part-time to 3,000 words in my first couple weeks, and I plan to increase, but I don't know that I could write 10,000 words a day, or at least it seems like a very far off goal for me. So I definitely admire your dedication to your craft and putting out that kind of output.
Thanks. I just look at it like a job. Like I don't really think I'm an artist. I just think I'm a craftsman. Like like I always tell people, like I'm making pizzas or making shoes. I just show up in the morning. I set my alarm at 6 o'clock in the morning. I wake up, I walk into the office, I sit down, I start working. I take a lunch break, and then keep working. And, it's just, nothing's going to happen unless I do the work. So
Yeah, absolutely, that is true. That's the thing about being self-employed in any respect. You're the boss. You're the one who's determining how successful you're going to be as far as like production output goes. Nobody's there making you, so you don't want to work that day. You don't got to work that day, but you're also not going to get the results of having put out 10,000 words that day. So those are the upsides and downsides of being.
I feel really bad if I don't hit at least 5,000 words a day. Like I think it's probably been like 7 or 8 months since I haven't hit 5,000 words a day. And that's like pretty much every single day, even Saturday and Sunday I'll write and I'll work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm definitely at every single, like for me, it has to be a habit to write. Otherwise, just skipping a day or like skipping a couple of days will my entire schedule. I find it hard to like get started again. So I'm definitely with you on the everyday. I have to write something thing. It's probably not going to be 5,000 days minimum for a while, but I'm with you there.
It gets up there. I never would have thought I would have been able to do that, and then I just did it one day. I'm like, this took me all day to do 5,000 words, but I can do it. And then all of a sudden it was like 6,000 words, and then it was 7,000 words, and then I don't really do 10,000 words every day. Every day I do at least 5,000 words, but I'll normally finish the week with 35,000. That's probably standard, and I've had a couple 45,000 word weeks. So yeah, and that's like a book every a normal size book every 2 weeks. LitRPG book is like a month. Those have to be a little bit longer. But
no, absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of like a book a week, which is a great meaning. But that also means you can put out all these different kind of genre stories. Now, before we go back into your book, so let's hear a bit about you, author Michael Scott Earle. What got you into writing? Tell us a little bit about yourself as an author. Why you chose to do this.
Okay. When I was younger, my parents divorced really early, and I bounced back and forth between, mom's house and dad's house. So I was kind of a lonely kid, and I think it was probably like 8 or 9 or something. But I had a friend that I met that gave me Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangers, like the role playing game. Like I don't know if you've seen the old Palladium, box. It was a book, and this guy was really into role playing games. It was just the two of us though. So we used to sit around and be like, what kind of games? I had like no friends besides this one guy. And I kept every other week I would move between parents. So I just had no real friends besides this one kid. And just, sit down and read through it and like make characters and talk about adventures and go on. And like, we didn't really even think we could play together because we always thought we needed we needed so we didn't really think about it, but I had tons of stories set up. And then, I got to junior high and high school, and I found people to play with, and my life was a little more stable. And I used to play D&D. I tried to play it every weekend. My parents thought it was really satanic, so they were like, it was. That
was the times.
But it was an uphill battle to try to go to someone's house, and they like wouldn't drive me. They wouldn't give me money for food, so that was kind of a pain in the ass. And then when I kind of my senior year in high school and college stuff, I had my own car. And I had friends that had cars, and we would play a role-playing game 2-3 times a week. We would get together. We would play super ultra nerds. When we were playing Dungeons and Dragons or Shadowrun or Legends of the Five Rings or Deadlands or any Palladium, Heroes Unlimited, any of those games, we were playing Squaresoft like games on Nintendo or PlayStation. We were playing like so many video games. We were into computers and playing Ultima and Doom, and my whole life was just I was playing some sort of game all the time. And I got shitty grades in school. I got like C's or, even worse. Cause I just didn't, I'd be in class and I'd be reading a book, or I'd be working on developing a game, a role-playing game. And I just never wanted to do homework or anything. And I just got terrible grades, and it frustrated my parents. And they were further convinced what I was doing was like satanic or evil, or just these role-playing games were bad for me. We have much different conversations now when I show them my career. But
are they like, oh, this is my famous son, the author, who's successful?
Yeah, they're really happy with me now. And I every time I sit down and talk, I'm like, remember when you didn't want me to play Dungeons and Dragons? When you got so mad that I played all these video games. But all of these, I GM'd most of the time we were playing. Sometimes I was a player, but I GM'd most of the time. And all throughout this, my friends were telling me, like, you just do the best games. You're so good. And we would switch between games like nonstop, and I would have a new scenario coming up with. And I don't know how I did it. I just came up with these new ideas. And my whole life they were just like really good friends and really good gamer groups. And we would spend a lot of time really just like, what's the role playing aspect of it? What's the interactions between the people? And we get into fights and stuff during the game where we roll dice, but a lot of it was just role playing stuff. So they always told me like, you should write a book or write a movie or something like that. And I was just like, whatever, I don't need to do that. So, I kind of joined the workforce, and I got my MBA, and I was doing a director of sales for a company that did, we sold T-Mobile phones across the country. And I really liked my job, but I was on the road 40 weeks out of the year. I was on a plane in another city. And I kept reading, like I've read tons of books, and I was reading Name of the Wind by Pat Rothfuss. And I was also reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss, which I think is a really good book. I don't know if you've read that yet, but that's a good kind of self-help book. But the whole idea with 4-Hour Workweek is you need to find a job you can do on the side that'll make you money, and you're not tied down to the location you are. So I was reading that book, and then I read Name of the Wind. And when I finished Name of the Wind, I thought to myself, like, this is just Harry Potter. Like, this is Harry Potter, but like speaking a little bit. And this dude's a New York Times bestseller, and it took him like freaking 12 years to write this. And I was like, I could write a Harry Potter, but I'm going to put a lot more sex in it and a lot more violence. Like, I want to write the book I would read, because I loved reading those books when I was like a badass main character, walking around, killing fools, banging all the hot chicks. Like, that's the book I wanted to read. And I'm like, I could do this kind of story with more adults and just really focused on like men. Like, because I felt like there's not a lot of books out there for guys. So I wrote it, and that was the Destroyer series. I went and published the first 2 books, and that month I made like twice what I made at my like really nice job like that I was working before. And then I was like, oh, I'm out of here. Like, I got to write full time. And I was a little bit like, I already had the way that series works is there's flashbacks between his past and the present. And so I kind of, when I wrote the first book, I was like, well, I should write the second and the third and the fourth before I publish it, because there might be back and forth between the storylines. So I wrote all 4 before I really edited them, but it ends up I really didn't need to do that. I somehow figured out the storyline, when I did that. And my wife read the whole thing when I was writing, and she's like, I can't believe you. Like, you're just a new writer. How did you get this story so complicated? I'm like, well, I've been kind of writing since I was young, writing all these.
This all my life, like these stories. So.
Yeah, like I just had them in my head, And then another thing about doing like a D&D or a role-playing game is your players are going to fuck you up all the time. Like, they're just going to totally throw wrenches in your plans. So you might have an outline of what's going to happen, and they'll go in and totally screw it up. So you got to be really flexible and be able to instantly make decisions. So I don't really get writer's block, because if I'm writing and I have an outline and something happens with the character that I'm doing and they go a different direction, I just instantly change everything around. I got a new outline, the story moves forward. And I also kind of have a feel for when things are boring and when things aren't boring, because I can tell with like when I play with players, like when the story starts to lag and they're getting bored. Okay, I need to throw in a fight scene, So I feel like I've got good pacing there. But it's all from playing role playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and Heroes Unlimited and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangers, all that stuff. That's it. That's all my writing experience.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. That story is. I'm like nodding with you. Something like that. That's so similar to what I experienced, except that I didn't have as many friends as you did in high school. I think I read all those Dungeons and Dragons manuals by myself without anybody to play with, and that was satisfying. And I did very similar things in high school. Your story is very similar to mine, especially with the decision to actually start writing.
Yep,
mine was very similar. Like, I was reading LitRPG, and I'm like, I could write something better than this, or I'm not getting the story that I exactly want with some of these things, and so I decided to write my own, and people liked it, and I recently made the same decision in quitting my job because this paid better. Sure, I don't have health benefits, and I have to put them inside with that, but still, this is potentially a better job and a more flexible hours. I'm spending more time with my wife, and it's great for everybody, and I'm super happy that it's working out for you. How long have you been writing full time for?
I started back in, I think it was January, February of 2016. So it's just been like 14 months, I think, 14, 15 months, something like that. So
that's
just about your anniversary. So I do about a book or 2 a month. So and I mean, every time I write a book, I get more audience coming in for the new ones and stuff. So it's been a really good career so far. And I definitely work twice as many hours as I did before. I'm nonstop working. Like I said, my alarm goes off at 6:30. I'm up and I'm writing, and and there's also a lot of Facebook stuff you got to do, connect with other authors and fans and stuff. But I never get tired. I think we were talking about this before we jumped on, but I just don't get tired. I don't get bored. I look forward to every single day.
But yeah, that's absolutely, like I said, 19 books in 2 years. That's That is absolutely hands down amazing. So congratulations,
Thanks.
jumping whole head into something that it seems that you love and that you're good at, and especially since you are successful. I mean, I look at your stats, I look at the numbers, reviews you have. I think your destroyer first destroyer knob has over 300 reviews at this point, which is absolutely staggering for a series that's a couple of years old basically. So, my hats off to you, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you have any? You already actually hit New York Times and USA Today bestsellers. Do you have any other goals for your writing career?
First kind of goal was to, I'd like to get to 20 books, which will happen this month. I think by the time this podcast comes out, Lions Quest 3 will be out in stores, so hopefully people receive that well. I feel like it's the best one yet, and the people who have read it so far really, really love it. I'd like to get to I'll be at 20 books probably at the end of the month because I'm almost done with the Star Justice 2, and I'd like to get up to 50 books and 100 books, and hitting New York Times is pretty much the value. You can't get much bigger than that, but I've got financial goals where I'd like to have a certain amount of money saved, and I want to start working on Patreon and try to get a certain amount of people on Patreon that are supporting me there, so I don't feel as tied to Amazon. But it's so hard because to do different stuff, it's like there's like 80 different things I can do every single day. But like the writing is the most important stuff, and it's always like I figured 5,000 words down. It's like, well, I could do all these other things, but getting another 5,000 words, so I have 10,000 words today. That's really gonna be awesome. So everything else just kind of falls to the wayside. So I'm trying to think about hire an assistant or something to help me do promotion or something like that. And
as long as your numbers support it, and why not? I mean, there's a lot of detail work that you can push out to somebody else. I mean, editing, editing because they're faster and better at it than we are. And so why not do the same thing for promotional work, PR stuff, all those little tedious things, that happen on a daily or weekly basis. So you can focus on the thing that you're really good at, the thing that makes the most sense to spend your time on, which is writing.
I think it's a future thing. I'm also thinking of doing a co-writing project with someone that I'm working on. I got 2 people that I'm talking to, and that'll be kind of fun. I think I can look at other authors and maybe give them critiques on the writing and hopefully make them enough money so that they can go full time too. Because I have so many ideas for stories, and I look at like the things I want to write. Like, there's no way I could write everything. I have people complaining about me, like, you need to get Destroyer 5 done. It's like, I got so many books done, and I got to write all these other series, and and then I have more ideas in my head just floating around of stuff that I just want to do right now, and I can't write them because I'm just too busy. So I think all the co-writing projects are something that is going to be beneficial.
I'm curious to hear about some other point, like how that works out for you, because I thought about like how the creative process will work when you're working with somebody else, because it's an entirely different mindset of narrative processes, character development, and how you would mesh those two together in a cohesive story. I've never done it, so I've only written one thing, so I've barely been writing at all. So I'm curious how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. The gentleman I'm working with is right now I've got a guy and a girl, a man and woman I'm kind of been working with, and the gentleman I'm working with, right, I'm kind of the furthest along with. And, we're just talking about the various ideas about stuff. It kind of feels like co-GMing almost, a game. So I'm kind of taking to that, but he is gonna do like the lion's share of the work. I said lion stuff, but. I'm just giving him the ideas of like, this is what I want the story to be. These are the kind of characters I want. These are developments, and like, let's, you do the outline. I'm going to come back and tell you what we need to change or add, or certain points I think that readers are going to really love. And then he'll probably write a chapter, and I'll edit it, and then bounce it back to him. And I still feel it's going to be a lot of work, but I feel like there's so many good stories to tell, and I really focus on writing books for guys. That's really my market. I've just noticed the ones that I write. That are more geared towards women, like, just don't do as well. Like my Concrete Chaos and my Justice series, like the City of Light. I think they're great novels and people love them, but they just don't sell as well as my Destroyer stuff or Lion's Quest or the Star Justice stuff or the Hell High stuff. Even it's just about guys, and maybe that's because I just write men better, But I do feel like
I think you probably have more experience with being a guy than you do a woman.
Yeah. But I also feel like there's a lot of social justice warriors out there, and the whole publishing industry has really moved towards, women need to read all these books, and we need to write books for women, and women are the only readers. And I just think, like, there's guys out there reading books, and there's guys that want books for dudes. And,
yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like it's a really hungry market, and they want great books. And so I write books for guys. And it's funny how it's ended up, because I get a ton of, most of my fan emails from guys, but all my editors are women now, because they've just like come to me and they said, I really like your books, and can I help you edit stuff? And it's just I write books for guys, but women end up reading them and they like them. So I don't know, but I feel like if I wrote a book for a woman, the guys wouldn't even bother reading it. So
and that may be the other side of it, is that by specifying for a female protagonist, a lot of guys won't even take the chance on the book, just because it's a lady, I'm not going to relate automatically. There's a barrier in their minds saying that this is not for me because there's a lady main character.
Yeah, and I hate to say that, because I'm all for women's rights, and I'm married and have 2 daughters that I love, but I often just don't read books written by women because I don't care to, and it's I hate saying that, because it's if I like C.S. Friedman is old classic science fiction fantasy writer, and she's probably one of the first women to ever write dark fantasy, and I loved her. What was the name of that series with the Black Sun Rising, right? Like that's a great series, and I read that stuff, and I've read all her books, but I just I prefer to read books by men.
Right, you don't intentionally seek out female authors potentially, and that's a choice. I mean, it's neither wrong or good. It's just you tend to go towards male writers or male protagonists.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of guys are like that too, Yeah,
I'm the same way personally. It's not that I don't like female authors or female protagonists. It's just that, and I read some, with LitRPG, but I'm more naturally inclined to go towards the character I can relate the most to, which is in general a dude, because that's the experience that I can relate to the most. I really do love when I can see someone else's perspective. That's one of the great things I love about literature in general, is that it allows for the conveyance of someone else's point of view, and for you to live that character's life, whether they're male or female, or living as a different type of person, socially, economically, racially, whatever the case is. But you always get a chance to look at the world through someone else's eyes in an almost literal sense, because you're getting their thoughts from the pages of the book, and that's a great thing. But casually, I'm just like, the things that I know that when I pick up for just casual reading, it's like, dude. And that's just what I'm naturally and maybe the world is going to change soon, but it is what it is. And you as someone who produces content, if you have to choose what audience you're going to write for potentially, because you got to pay bills, well, you choose the one that works out the best for your writing stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a line between what, like, the art and the wish fulfillment of the audience, and then like what's going to drive a story or make an interesting story. And I look at like Lion's Quest. My biggest complaint about the first book, besides like there's not a lot of it in the game, there's a setup, but a lot of people don't really like, they don't like Zara, the character, because they think obviously this woman is evil. Obviously this woman is, do this game is not a game. Obviously all this stuff. And I'm sitting there and I think to myself, like, you don't like picture, like if you really are in Leo's shoes, you have no idea there's like it's going to another world or anything. You would not think that. All you think about is a really badass VR game, and here's the CEO of this amazingly popular, or amazingly rich corporation wants me to get to work for him, but I think a lot of fans think, well, I've read so many of these books. They're coming from a place of like, I've read all these fantastic books, and this is another fantastic book. So obviously it's clear to me that Zara's evil, and she's
their
the game is more than a game.
Is influencing, obviously.
Yeah,
and so to me, Zara's not necessarily evil. I mean, this is just my point of view on the character. She has a certain point of view, and I can see especially in book one, it feels like she's going to be the bad guy because she's beautiful. She's a ton of what he's looking for, but at the same time, she's the temptress in a lot of ways, because she's teasing him from his current gig as the world player versus player, online virtual reality champion, into this new thing, which is potentially life altering for his whole situation. But I see her as more of a temptress character, not necessarily as the evil, because in a lot of stories, especially yours, there's no black and white, evil versus good. It's mostly shades of gray. Even the main character does some bad things or things that would, in different sociological conditions, be considered evil or bad or just not really good. And a lot of that stuff happens in LitRPG because the rules within game worlds are always different than the rules that are in the real world. You don't murder people randomly in real life, but in the video game world, it's expected.
Yeah,
because you need to get experience.
If you want their stuff,
for me, there's more flexibility than just evil versus good, especially within this genre of LitRPG.
There's some questions like that in Lions Quest threat. You're probably not to the part yet, but there's definitely an argument between Leo and Zara about what's the direction of the game, because she wants it as ultra real as possible. And in the game, Leo finds out that like women can get pregnant, and the AI creates an entity based off of genetic. What it figures genetic makeup, and Leo's like, no, this is not. You can't do this. You can't do this in this game. And Zara says, this is what people want. They want the full immersion. They want games like this. You can have kids in, the Astafar Unlimited. And he's like, well, those are just NPCs with canned lines. This feels so real. The NPCs feel so real. It's personality. Like, what if someone has kids in real life and they have kids in the game? And now how is that going to confuse people? And it's a real division between them, because in her opinion, I need to make money and make this game. And it's got to be as real as possible because this is what people want. In his opinion, like, you're going to get people addicted to this game. They're not going to be able to log out. They're going to have to work to support this, and they're going to ignore the whole family. And it's like you have a social responsibility not to do that. And that's a huge argument that they have in the game. And I'm interested in think like what readers, especially RPG readers, think about that is if the game is more real than life and better than life, and you can have a family in the game, would you even care about real life anymore? What would that mean? So
yeah, absolutely. That's a great theme that I've seen in a lot of LitRPG, in that the game becomes better than real life. And some stories specifically target that kind of conceptual audience where the story takes place in 90% of the game because it's already assumed that reality sucks. And they usually do it a different way in that post-apocalyptic future, bad economic times, you're out of work. So, of course, you're going to jump in this game full-time that feels real to you. Yeah. So my question for you, though, is like going back a little bit, the argument between Leo and Zara is essentially how real is the game going to get? And I essentially think that's the same question you at one point had to decide for yourself as far as the game elements of the story are.
Yeah.
It's like how real or how, is this story game world I'm creating going to be super high, ultra realistic? And I'm just going to write it as like essentially a straight portal fantasy with like game stuff in there, or am I going to make it more gamified and like have my experiences as a gamer with a video game or tabletop game flow through, and that there are going to be canned responses, or is this going to be pixelated and enemies just disappear in a flash of light and there's a loot bag left over? So how did you decide on that balance in your particular game world in Lion Quest?
Like how to make it, like what level of realism to make it?
Yeah.
Well, I think I wanted to. This actually kind of starts like way back when I was first starting to think about writing a LitRPG, and I kind of got to LitRPG because I wrote my Hell High series, and I just put some video game tags in there because the main character plays a lot of video games and reads a lot of comic books, and I saw a whole bunch of people buying the book, and they're also buying this LitRPG genre, and I was like,
people who bought your book also view this.
Yeah, and I was like, what is this LitRPG? And I started looking at people, and I'm like, this is just a fantasy novel, like with video games. And I'm like, I love video games, and I love fantasy stuff, so I could write this. And I talked to Alron Cog, and I talked to Blaze Corbin, and I talked to Travis Bagwell, and all. And you, I think I asked you a bunch of questions, like what is the genre? And I remember an argument certain people had on a Facebook group about like Portal fiction versus hard, crunchy LitRPG. And so when I wrote Lion's Quest, I'm like, I want to make the game questionable. Like, is this a game or is this a portal that he's being transferred to? And I wanted to keep the readers guessing, all the way until the end. Like, what is this really? So I had to make it as real as possible. And I had to make it, and I also wanted to make the main character someone that had and this is a little bit different than a lot of other RPGs. It's like the main character normally has, a pretty terrible real life. So it's easy for them to get into the game because their life is so so bad. And I thought, well, I want to mix up a little bit, and I want to make it so the main character has a pretty awesome life. And maybe I think that was a little bit of a mistake because some people can't really identify with him, because he is like the champion. He is the best of the best in the world, So I think a lot of readers like just really couldn't connect with him. So that may have been a mistake, but I don't personally want to read a story about someone that's a loser and then gets in the game and is a winner. But I think that's really like a common trope. I want to read about a badass dude doing badass things with badass people. Like that's what I want. I want to read Conan like over and over again.
I think part of the trope that you're referring to is not necessarily that he's a loser in real life. I think it's part of the character arc progression that's common in LitRPG or in RPGs in general, whether it's tabletop, computers, whatever. In that you start small and powerless, and there's that arc of power creation where you become more and more powerful over the course of time, and that character progression is what people are drawn to, because very often in our lives we feel powerless at one point in our life.
Totally.
And so we want to be that character, and that we see the hope and the opportunity and of getting better and having that opportunity of becoming more powerful and wiser. And it's having the case that they can't do it in real life in the story because it's real. It's what we live in. But in that game, they start level 1, but they can go to level 100. It's just a matter of hard work or maybe luck or getting unique power, whatever it is. And I think that's in part why it's such a common trope. You, on the other hand, went the other opposite of millionaire, boxer, supreme guy. And I think for me, the appealing part was that he had to make a real tough decision, and that he had to give up all that stuff. He could have stuck with his job and just been millions and billionaires and had a really fun life, except he wasn't happy with it anymore. He was unsatisfied. But for many people in real life, that's a decision they have to make. That's kind of a decision you had to make, and I had to make in choosing. I have steady work, I have healthcare, I have a steady paycheck, my bills are paid. Or I can take the chance, I can take the risk and maybe find something better, or maybe I can fail. But it's a risk that not everybody is willing to take. And I think that's the distinction between hero and zero. And that heroes they take the risk, they take the chance, and with the win or lose, at least they played.
You really hit the nail on the head. It's the progression, and it's starting from like nothing and then building and progressing. And I think that's where I may have missed with Lions Quest, is that, I mean, the series still does well, but I think if I had written, maybe the main character is not the champion video game player, best in the world, best athlete, I think it probably would have resonated with a little more people. But that was the book I wanted to read, so I wrote it.
And that's what you should write. You should write the story that you want to, because then you're enthusiastic about it. Whether or not it's as mass appealing as it potentially could, because that's always can be a question.
Yeah,
you can always second guess yourself in your writing and say, could I have done this better? And you can spend the rest of your life thinking, or you can just write the story. And if it does great. If it doesn't, okay. Second try, something else, but it obviously resonates with enough people because it's rather successful. I personally really enjoy it. And just because he, starts out kind of a little OP, a little overpowered, doesn't mean that there aren't story opportunities that the people can still relate to. Just creates a challenge instead of an easy path or an unknown. You're taking the path less trodden. In other words,
It's like you said, opportunity cost with, do I stay with what's comfortable and what I know, or do I, take the trust fall and jump, leap of faith, and hope that this all turns out, and that's something that I think, I hope people get to make that decision or see that decision, and can do it. Because there was plenty of times when I first went full-time author that I had sleepless nights or I had bad sales days, and I telling my wife, like, what are we, like, if this, I'm working, like, I'm making as much or a little bit more than I made before my day job, but we don't have healthcare now. There's no guarantee tomorrow's sales are going to be tomorrow's sales, and I'm working literally twice as hard. And when you're in some people know that when they're a corporate job or any sort of job, you maybe work 40, 50, 60 hours, but it's not 40, 50, 60 hours of work. There's a lot of downtime between emails or calls or whatever, but like this author gig is like 70, 80 hours of nonstop work. Like it's just
when you become self-employed, you're the boss, and you end up working more for yourself hour-wise than you ever did for somebody else. And of course, there are the benefits. If you succeed, you get all the benefits, you get all the profits. But if you fail, you have no one else to look towards except yourself, and it's a huge risk. And I totally hear you on this.
Yeah, because you're doing that right now. I'm sure you've had many sleepless nights, and you hit. I don't know if you get writer's block. If you hit writer's block, you're like, what am I gonna do? Or
I haven't gotten it yet so far. Just because I outline, I kind of work the same way you do in that I have a general outline. Places where I know I want the story to go. But all the details in between aren't always filled out. And sometimes the character goes off and does other things, or they go in directions that they hadn't planned, and you just got to roll with it. You're like, okay, this arc is not going to be the same, or I need to create a new arc because they decided to go in this direction because it's more in line with their character, and they're not going to murder that dude that I want to murder just because I want them to. It doesn't feel natural. And all those story arcs, and it's just there's plenty of stuff for these guys to do in my mind. So I haven't gotten luck yet though.
That's good. It's if you got the stories up in your head and you know where the story's going to go, it just flows.
Yeah. Well, I had one story.
I'm sorry?
I have one story. I don't have like 5 or 6 like you going on.
Well, but I'm sure you can think of more. I'm sure you got way more up in there. And I like having multiple series, and because if I get tired of one idea or whatnot, I can jump to a new one. But the first book is always the easiest to write. You see a lot of people that have written one book, and you're like, where's the second book, or where's the third book, and the fourth book? And once you get to like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 books, it's like, okay, now you're it's taking some serious willpower to keep writing. And I do have 16 planned for Lion's Quest. I'd like to do a book.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to do a book every single relic. I hope I can get there. Like it depends a lot on like profitability of Lion's Quest versus profitability of other series versus. Right. Their books are just so long to write. Here's I got an example for you. This is Eye of the Tiger, right? It's my space opera. Let's see how thick it is. Lion's Quest 2.
Yeah.
It's like 3 times longer. To write. So they're just giant books that take forever to write. Forever to me is like 5 weeks, like most people, it would take them a year or 2 to write that, so, but I always have to look at like, if I can do 3-star justices between Lion's Quest, like what's going to make me more money is the shorter books coming out quicker. But I love the series. I love the storyline. I love LitRPG. I love the fantasy elements. I like the loot progression and the skill progression. I like all the characters in the novel. So I'd like to keep writing it for 16 books.
Perfect. Okay, let's pull back a little bit just because we talked about Lion's Quest a little bit. But let's give the audience at least a little bit of a summary about, okay, this is the elevator pitch. If they're considering reading Lion's Quest, what's it about and why should they read it?
So Lion's Quest is about Leo Lennox, and he is the top of the world champion gamer of this game called Asphar Unlimited, which is a virtual reality game that they play in like kind of a multi-harness kind of unit with a running ground. They're starting to see these pop up now in the VR realms, Omnisphere kind of thing. So he runs around and plays this game. There's I don't get much into the old game Asphar Unlimited, but there's PvE and PvP elements. It's a lot like Guild Wars, which I'm a huge fan of Guild Wars 1 and 2, but the game's a lot like Guild Wars where you get set skill slots. The first book opens up with Leo doing the grand tournament last round where he's fighting against the Korean champion, and he beats the Korean champion easily, and it's been 10 years he's been the champion now. And like boxing, when you're the champion of Asphar Unlimited, like you are called the champ. So like every single person that's ever been the world heavyweight champion of boxing is just called the champ. So if you were to meet Lennox Lewis, who I based the name off today, you would call him champ because he's the champ, like kind of like president. You call him president. So anyways, so he's called the champ by everyone. He's kind of bored. He grew up poor in the Bronx, and now he's got more money than he knows what to do with. He's had tons of women. He doesn't really connect with anyone. He's got 2 best friends and his manager, and that's like his family now. His parents have Alzheimer's, which I wrote in. My grandmother is suffering from Alzheimer's right now, and I live with her. So to me, it was always something that I thought it's just really kind of made my way of coping with her condition right now is writing it so that Leo has that with his parents. So he meets a woman named Zara, who's a president of a company that does Alzheimer's treatment, but also has a VR game. And she wants him to play the game and sponsor it and be an employee. And he's heard this pitch a million times, but he's intrigued by the Alzheimer's treatment. So he goes and he tests out the game, and the game is beyond anything he's ever played before. It's like he's been teleported into a new world, and he's stronger than ever, faster than ever. knows how to fight like he did before, and instead of him hitting something and it the arm vibrates on the machine, he's plugged into the VR machine, he like can feel the blood and feel it. So he's really intrigued by it. So he decides to, for various reasons in book one, and things like that, he decides to join up with this woman's company and start playtesting this game. Then weird things start happening. So, and those weird things will continue, and they continue in book one, book two, and book three. It gets a little bit more, challenging. I'm hoping the reader is going to. Well, one of my editors finished the book, and he sent me, and he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like he's like, this is the best book ever, and seriously, what the fuck is going on? So I'm hoping that people are intrigued by it and they want to keep reading it, because I like to do a whole bunch more.
Good, and I hope everyone enjoys it. I'm only about 10% into it. I'm enjoying it. Pirate battles are always nice to have.
Yeah.
You start off the third novel action right away, so that's always a good beginning in any kind of novel, LitRPG novel I read. So I'm already appreciating it. I'm hoping I'll have to see what you're talking about later. So I'll read it this weekend.
And there's going to be more Lurie. Lurie seems to be a fan favorite. I think maybe people love her or hate her. But she's got more development. Yeah. I'm planning on book 4 is going to have a lot more with her. There's some hints about that in book 3. And in book 5 will have more of her stuff in there too. It's like I said, people either love her or hate her, and they love her, they really love her, and they hate her, they really hate her. So
yeah, I can definitely see both sides. I'm like, okay, this is kind of tropey, but it's an entertaining trope. I'm like, okay,
I put that in there just because I like, you watch all this anime or you do these video games. I'm like, this is that character in there.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was ridiculous that they made. And the other thing I thought about too is if you've read my Destroyer series, the elves in that series are super evil, super mean, very powerful, diabolical, and they've enslaved the whole human race. That's the whole idea behind my Destroyer series. So when I got to the part in Lion's Quest 1 where I was like, let's introduce the elves now, I thought to myself, like, I want to do something completely different. And I'm like, that's completely different than anything else. And it matches all these tropes that have been in all these various game, literature. And I just thought it was a really interesting experiment of how it is, and that stuff. So, yeah.
You're definitely exploring, because you created backstory and social development for that race to explain why this could potentially be the case, where young elves are hypersexualized, and it made sense within the context of the story's cultural development for the race. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like that particular portion of it. For me, I'm like, oh, I've seen it enough anime harem and hentai or whatever. Like, okay, I recognize this, and I get why he's putting it in. He's kind of making a fun of it in a bit, but it's also you also added actual backstory to explain why it's actually realistic.
Yeah, and there's in the world they have like laws and stuff and things like that, and so it's always interesting. Like I thought to do it, but people, my editors all love her, which are when I've got like I said, most of my editors are women. I've got 2 guys, but I've got 6 women also that help me out with the editing. And I thought as soon as they read the first book, they're like, they're gonna hate this character, and they all came back saying they loved her. So I was like, okay, whatever, we're gonna fly. I didn't change really anything from the first draft of her being hypersexualized and having all these puns with sex and stuff like that, and just really motivated that. I didn't really change anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, a lot of things that will appeal to a wide variety of people, whether it's action, some of the sex jokes, the LitRPG game stuff, or the action in the real world, which is definitely more prominent, I'd say, in book 1 and parts of books 2. You still going to have that real world storyline going on in book 3?
Yeah, it's there. It's definitely a lot less because I know fans like the game world stuff more, and I think the game world stuff is really interesting. But the overall arcing story is in the real world, so that's really where it's got to keep coming back to, at least for now. But there's definitely I want people to keep asking, like, what is going on with this game? Is it really a game? What's going on with Honor Crypt? What's going on with Zara? Like, what? And it's not going to be something like, and I think some people might complain that there's, it's not moving fast enough, that storyline, but like, it's just not gonna. Sorry.
It's a book's plan now, so this is
like this. And it wouldn't. And also, each book takes place over like a week of time. So you're not going to find out whatever dirty or non-dirty secrets a company has after being employed for a few weeks. It's gonna take a while.
I have theories about like what's actually happening. My theory, we can cut it if it's too accurate, but my theory is that Zara is tapped into an alternate dimension when she was developing her game, and that dimension essentially some entity took control or modified her, so that she's trying to get other powerful entities to enter that world, so they can then take over them. And that this is really, it's not necessarily a game, but that's the interface that's coming through the mechanics that she's created for people like Leo, and that they can interpret this world and be modified by it in that respect. That's me. That's
a good theory. I've heard a bunch of them. All of them have been wrong.
Okay, so it's okay.
There's actually one. I first published a story on Railroad, and like one dude sent me this PM, and he said he nailed it. He did everything. Yeah. He got after like the third chapter of the book, and I was like, how the fuck did you figure out exactly what I was going to write after that? But he got it. So if that dude's watching this video, you got it. But
okay, please, if you are watching this video, don't spoil it for us.
No.
What's wrong with you, man?
Yeah. But I've also got hundreds of emails when I post on Railroads telling me, so they're not going to know who it is, but like it's yeah. Well, I just want people to consider maybe Zara is not the bad guy.
Yeah, no, I never thought she's the bad guy necessarily. If anything, she's a middle management pawn, in my opinion. Yeah. You can obviously hint that she's not the big boss. Like there are other entities and powers maneuvering around this world that are either larger or opposed to her. So I'm like that's at least evident.
That's good. I like that you're picking that up. That's good.
Yeah, thanks for putting in those. I mean, you foreshadow it enough. I should pick it up. Okay, now speaking of your writing stuff, you have tons of books, tons of storylines in multiple genres: science fiction, fantasy, space opera. You started. You also have like teen romance, action, comic book stuff. You have cyberpunk. Where do you come up with all the ideas for these stories, and why? How do you choose what genres to write in?
So I come up. I really don't know how I come up with the ideas. It just goes back to the whole role-playing stuff where it was like, we're playing Shadowrun. I guess I'd like to say that Shadowrun is my biggest influence because the basic, when I play Dungeons & Dragons, it's really cut and dry of, I guess this doesn't have to be all of Dungeons & Dragons, but it's really cut and dry of like, here's the quest that you're given and you complete that quest and you get experience and you level up and, whoop-de-doo, that's great. But Shadowrun is if anyone hasn't ever played a Shadowrun game, it's just phenomenal.
I only like the PC game version.
Yeah, you probably can pick it up on it, but the idea is that you've got someone that hires you to do a job, like a Mr. Johnson hires you to do a job, and you go and so that's your quest is the job, and to do the job is normally you've got to do something like somewhat illegal. And it's really blurred as far as like what's the right or what's wrong, and so you've got to go and hire. You might have to hire people to help you find information about where you're going to go, or get blueprints of places, or break into places. And when you go and you get to your destination, it might not be as you thought it was because the person hiring you might not be a good person. It might not be a good quest. It might be completely evil. And then when you get whatever you're going to get or whatever the objective is of the mission or the quest, and you get back to get payment, that person could end up betraying you. So there's all sorts of twists and turns and stuff in it that it makes it so much more in depth, and it really makes the players on their toes because they don't know who to trust during this whole thing. And so I really like when I started playing Shadowrun. That's just how it's written, like how the game is designed to do that. Where you expect you expect the job to not be as described. You expect that what you're supposed to get isn't going to be exactly as described. When you get back, you're probably not going to get paid. And the dude's probably going to try to kill you. So like all those things just going in there, it just creates a really interesting, a game to play. And I ended up bringing a lot of that back into D&D when I would GM those games, just to make it a little bit more gray.
Right.
So it was I just found like I just developing those stories are just in my head. So if I think like I want to write a lit RPG, I've got an idea for like 2 more lit RPGs that I really want to do. But one of the thoughts I had was I want to do a kind of a police procedural where people are getting murdered in game, and the main character has to but they're getting murdered in game, but they die in real life. So the main character has to go into the game to figure out why these people are getting murdered, and bounce out of it. And the idea, so I just thought of like, I want to do another RPG, but I want there to be consequences in real life outside of the game. And it just started coming to my head, and all of a sudden I had like an outline for it.
That particular, I've seen that before. And it's always challenging. I've read probably 3 or 4 novels that have a very similar concept to it. And it's always just challenging to balance out the detective stuff with the LitRPG stuff, because they're not inherently compatible necessarily, especially if you're pulling from like video game background. There aren't a lot of detective stories in video games as far as like questing stuff on your PC or your MMOs or whatever. Within the terms of a tabletop setting, though, I think that's inherently more doable as far as like more flexible storytelling in that particular consequences. I'm kind of curious to see how you end up balancing those 2 acts, because I've seen it happen where the detective story becomes the prominent point of it, and so all the game stuff, RPG stuff, people enjoy and kind of go in for it.
That means it's not really an RPG when you get out of the game. So it's got to be more. Like you said, it's a real fine line between the real life stuff and the game stuff, and that's why Lion's Quest. It's I got to keep the real life stuff not in the forefront, because it's not what readers want, I think, for LitRPG. A lot of them like it and they don't mind it, and if it's done really well, which I think I do it well, and so they get it. But I think a lot of readers are like you, where they just want to be like, put me in the game right then and there, and I want to be in the game. And that's the genre, So if I don't want to write with those tropes in that genre, I have to make sure I do those parts they don't like really, really well. So, but as I look through everything that I write and stuff, I've got 13 more Lion's Quest books I want to do. I've got a whole bunch of the space opera stuff I want to do now. I've got to do 4 to 5 more Destroyer books, and those are really long too. People like my Hell High stuff. I'm trying to figure out my Rockstar Romance series. I'm talking a lot to William Arnett. I just actually talked to him today about it. I've talked a lot to Blaze Corvin about how do I get this series to do better, because I've had people that tell me it's the best stuff I've written, but I just don't know how to market it, because it's a contemporary.
This be the Rockstar Romance one?
Yeah, it's a contemporary guy, like harem. It's a guy in school that, college, that has sex with a bunch of girls, but people love the story. Like, guys love the story, and they're like, want the story, but I just look at the sales. I'm like, the sales don't justify it, but I know there's a market there. I just don't know how to get to it. So that's everyone I know, I'm asking, like, read these books. Tell me what you think. Like, how do I sell them? Because
as far as marketing goes, it is very challenging, because it goes into the romance section a little bit. And that is very female oriented. It's not as acceptable for men to read novels of that nature, even though within like the anime community, it's super popular. It's super. I
see a demand for it, because I see what William Arnett does, and I'm like, there's people like these stories. Mm-hmm. I see the Daniel Black series, right? That's another thing where I see like that's people like those kind of stories, but maybe there's not enough progression in this. Maybe it's too contemporary, maybe it's too too modern, and it's more relationships, and there's no kicking ass and leveling up or anything like that. So maybe I can't do it. I can't save it, but
could be the case. At some point you have to decide, is this worth it, or is it better to start over doing something similar but more specifically? Right? It's really hard to change the second, third, fourth book in, and I've seen so many people try to do it, especially in the LitRPG community. They'll write like a virtual reality story, and then when they discover LitRPG in that community, they'll try to change their second and third or fourth book to be more LitRPG. It doesn't work, because their world is already set up as being this thing, which is usually virtual reality, based, story based, whatever the case is, and it's not geared towards gaming and LitRPG and RPG mechanics, whatever the case is. And so it's hard to, I'm always like, and I've seen very few people do it well, if they even attempt it also. I'm like, so maybe it's just better to start something new. I don't know.
I'm always a fan of make new babies instead of resurrect the dead, Now, Travis Bagwell, he can resurrect the dead because he's a necromancer.
Yes. And your writing piece, I think it's a little easier just to, you can do that and not have to worry about losing too many fans, I think.
Yeah. And that's actually one kind of problem I have is I've got fans spread across so many different genres that it's kind of hard to you know, write like what everyone wants. And I thought about doing a Patreon page. And I'm like, well, if I do a Patreon page and people that sign up for Lions Quest stuff and they want to get chapters of that, but now I'm doing Star Justice chapters for the next, you know, I could throw both out there, but it's just like, I want to make sure that I'm giving the readers what they want. I'm really spread between different genres.
Yeah, I think a lot of authors actually just use different pen names for different books that they write, just because that would kind of isolate, these are the fans of this type of book, and I know with this particular pen name, that's what they're going to expect, and I can give them that under this pen name. But under this pen name, I can do this stuff, and they compartmentalize a little bit better that way, I think.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I've thought about doing some pen name stuff, but I also just like my name. Yeah. And I think if someone reads, I've seen the people that read all of my stuff, and then
you also start your user base again. If you use a pen name, and you can't just grab all your, you know, all the people like Michael Scott Earle and do, you know, Michael Scott Jane, you know, necessarily.
It's hard to start a new genre and do different stuff. That's why I thought when I first looked at LitRPG, I'm like, here's some people that I think would like the Destroyer. So I felt pretty confident that it wasn't a risk for me to jump into this genre, because the people that liked my LitRPG book would probably end up reading Destroyer, and it worked. They all ended up, you know, going to read Destroyer also, and the people that read Destroyer and really liked it, they ended up reading Lions Quest. So I had a lot of cross pollination there. So I thought it wasn't that risky to do. But when I did my space opera, I was definitely like really worried that it was just
those guys eat everything. I mean, I've read space opera. I'm a kind of sip stop. I don't read it as much because all I read now is LitRPG basically. But I know those guys just absolutely consume everything that they can get their hands on, if it's written, you know, halfway decently, because it's just such it very much is that epic storyline, but it also combines that kind of gimme more and more vibe that you get from like space video games.
Yeah, I really love space opera. I love like Serenity, and I love all the Mass Effect games, and I've read all EMM Banks and AA Alessandro, all those space operas I've read. And you know, when I finished the Star Justice book, I was like, why did it take me so long to write a space opera? Like it's like one of my favorite genres, and I don't know why it took so long. And I'm really, really happy that it did well, because I love writing them. Can't wait to write more on it. And actually, the second book should be done by Sunday, the first draft, and then I'll have it edited and stuff. But I'm really happy that I get to do that. I just feel like like I said earlier, like I writing books for guys is like doing really well for a lot of authors that I see. So I'm glad I can do that.
I'm happy that you're finding success in writing things you enjoy doing, because it's always a chore. I always hate to see a full-time author just write something because they feel like they have to pay the bills, or because that's where trends are heading. You can always kind of tell when somebody's not enthusiastic about the writing. It really does come through in the writing. Yeah. It feels like a chore to read because it's shorter for them to write, or they feel like they have to hit certain points and it's not enthusiastic. So I'd much prefer you write something that you are enthusiastic about than just something that, you know, might be trendy.
Yeah. It's I guess you got to balance out the trends versus, you know, it's like I love like if I was a shoe crafter, I would be like, I make shoes, but I still got to pay attention to what the styles are, you know, where the audience is going. I'm just happy that I like the stuff that seems to be doing really well right now. And maybe it won't next year, you know, so I try to be really frugal with my money, and try to save as much as I can. And, you know, now it's like, I was on the, I know this is totally a segue and maybe people won't care, but like the affordable healthcare stuff was just not like, it's really expensive and it doesn't really do a lot. And I know a lot of people are happy that they're insured and stuff, but it's kind of a ripoff, you know? And so I'm glad we have who knows if we're going to have a different, better one coming up the pipeline, but you know, it's just, there's no real healthcare coverage, you know, in the United States if you're self-employed. And whatever you can get is really, I was looking at, you know, $1,200 to cover my family, and there wasn't a doctor within 50 miles that would see us with it. So it's really rough. I don't know. Yeah. So, but that's
the downside of being self-employed, is that, you get all the benefits, but you also have to cover all your own risks, and healthcare is becoming increasingly more costly. Yeah. So that's just reality.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, if I can just write good stories that appeal to people, and I, you know, can follow market trends enough so that I'm where people are reading now, and keep delivering good stories. If I can bring them out quick, and I don't want to say I'm like the best author in the world. You know, my original story was I compared myself to Pat Rothfuss maybe a little bit. because I read his book and I thought like, well, I could do this and maybe I could do it better. And it's really like, I don't think anyone would believe that, but the difference is, Pat hasn't come out with a book in like 9 years, and 9 years from now, I will probably have 140 books out. So maybe people would prefer Pat's books over mine, but like, I'm going to have all these books out that are going to come out every month. And so people will read my books,
Right. Multiple moderate successes are just as good as one massive success every couple of years. As far as like, paying your bill, and for a full-time author, that's a real concern.
Yeah.
This is their job; they have to pay bills, just like everybody else. And so sometimes I get that they have to follow trends. My point was that I appreciate. I think it comes through in the work when you love it more than just it being something you have to do because my other books aren't selling necessarily. You know what I mean? And that's what I appreciate about your writing, that from what I can tell anyways, every single thing that you've written is something that you've really enjoyed. Yeah. They're all ideas, they're all stories that you're enthusiastic about. And that really does come through in the stuff that you write. I think part of that, your success is that's the case. Yeah.
Thanks for picking that up, because I really do love all the stuff I've written, and I like the characters, and it always breaks my heart when someone emails me and they say like, I really love Concrete Chaos. It's like my favorite books I've ever read. When are you going to write the fourth one? And I just say, I can't, because it just doesn't sell near what everything else does, and I have to pay my bills. I get the same thing. Probably the most I get is the Rockstar Romance. Like I said, like I must get an email every day, or maybe 2 emails from people saying like, I've read all your books. Rockstar Romance is the best. When is book 4 coming out? Like, I just can't, because it doesn't sell compared to everything else, and I got to make money to pay the bills so I can keep writing, So,
how long are the Rockstar Romance novels, if I can ask?
They're how many words are they?
How many words? How many pages?
70,000 each one.
Okay, so they're middling. I mean, when I think of the LitRPG novels, like the best ones that I've read are the ones common, like 100,000 words. So it's about half that size. Might consider writing shorter stories. I mean, turn Rockstar Romance into a serialized series where you have these small things you can kick out on a regular basis, and it's not as big an investment in risking your time and risking your probability, but still satisfies a certain user base, and they can get their fix, and you get a small bit of revenue, but it's a lot more regular.
Yeah, it's tough, because a week on that and I could make a couple $100, or a week on Lion's Quest would equal $1,000. It's because I've thought about it before. Like, well, I could just do a little thing, because I see so many places, so many stories I want to write, so many dramas I want to do. We'll just do a short story and see what happens. Like, well, that's still going to take me a couple days that I'm not focusing on the stories that really make me a living, which is the Destroyer stuff and Lion's Quest and the Star Justice, and even my Hell High stuff does really well. And that's probably the line I'd have to draw right there with Hell High stuff is as far as time spent versus return.
Yeah, and that's always kind of like figuring out where the best place on that scale is.
And I think there's a lot of authors that make that mistake where they fall in love with the series and they write it, and it doesn't make a lot of money, but now they're 6 or 7 books into it and it still doesn't make a lot of money. And for whatever reason, it's and I don't feel like the books are that much better than anything else. I feel like I've only been writing a year, so I can't possibly say that this book is so much better than Lion's Quest. It's just that there's certain things that hit with people, and they love it, and when there's some combination of the cover, or the title, or whatnot, and it just threw a lot of stuff out there, like a big net. You just cast a big net, and like I catch fish in one area, and I'm gonna go back and keep fishing that area until there's no more fish, and then I'll cast another big net, and hopefully I can
take the shotgun approach. I use scatter shot, whatever hits. Okay, that's where I'm going. I get that approach. I do. As far as like where you're going to direct your attention at, because why direct it at small things when you have the big thing in front of you that's going to be most popular, more so, and you're so enthusiastic about it. So I get what you're saying. Now, moving on to the next author question, though. Just a few things about we talked about your writing process a lot already. Just a few questions about what's the hardest and easiest thing for writing for you?
Sorry, that's what someone's coming home. Probably the easiest thing is just writing is pretty easy. Hardest thing for me is editing. And I write really clean first drafts, and I write in Google Docs, so my editors are actually editing right after me. And actually, it was funny, during Lions Quest 3, I was writing a chapter, and as I'm writing the scene, my editor makes a comment. She's like, "I'm watching you write this right now. I'm on the edge of my seat." And I had to go and like reply back to her and say like, "I'm gonna take a break now because you're messing with my mojo." So, but yeah, so
speaking of your soldier, huh?
Yeah, they're editing right behind me. But I just I run documents through ProWriting Aid when I'm done, which is the software that checks grammar and stuff like that. And then I do a read through, a text to speech read through. And then I send out to my other proofreaders, editors, and they get back to me. And then it's just that process, it like needs to be done. You have to do the editing, you have to do it, but it's like eating the vegetables. I just don't like it. And it's really hard not to drag ass through it. And I could probably edit, about 60 to 70,000 words a day if I focus on it. But sometimes that takes me like a day or two to get through, just because Facebook's so distracting. I'm done with the book. I'm normally drinking a beer to celebrate, so I'm a little bit buzzed. They say you shouldn't edit drunk, but whatever.
I think Blaze Carvin writes drunk. He doesn't edit drunk, though.
Yeah. Most people, both authors don't. I'm probably the inverse. I probably like write sober and then edit drunk, and that's why you find typos in my book.
There you go. Yeah, but that's probably the most common answer I get from most authors, that editing sucks universally because you're not being creative anymore. You're being technical. Those are very different parts of your brain. And if you're more on the creative side, writing is fun. You're creating world, you're creating characters, you're creating storylines. But editing is very much just, is this word right? Is this tense right? Is this sentence all in the same tense or structured correctly? And I'm like, I'll let other people do that as they read it the first time. For the most part, I'll get like a one through edit. Then I'll put it through Grammarly, Word, whatever. Spell checkers, grammar checkers, and then mostly I leave it to beta readers because they get a free read, but at the same time they're a fresh pair of eyes, and 36 people finding mistakes all at the same time is much more efficient than me reading it 3 or 4 times, to be honest.
And I'll write, and then I have 3 editors in Google Docs looking over everything. And one of them, they're all like development editors, and they'll make comments like, "I'm bored right here," or "This phrase doesn't make sense," or "You used the wrong name here," and they'll throw correct spelling. Yeah. And then I'll do my edit on it, and then I send it to the 5 kind of proofreader editors that I've got, and they'll send me all their word stuff back, and I got to compile that, and then I send it to my beta readers, and they'll it blows my mind that they will find stuff. So at this point, like this many people,
after like real editors,
and then I'll get the audiobook made, and the narrator will find stuff as he's doing it. And I'm like, how I cannot get rid of this stuff. And I've it doesn't matter how much I spend, how many people I get, like it just can't. I can't, But you think, a typo of one book is like one typo for 160,000 word novel. It's not that big of a deal, but
It's anybody else except for you, mostly.
It's just still, it is. It just bugs the show to me that there's a typo after all these people and all this time and all this energy spent, and I have a typo in the book, and I just like, just can't get rid of them,
Here, I don't care as much, I think, as you do, but I understand the mentality of like, 30 people have read this and edited it, and there are still small things that nobody caught. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's at some point I have to decide, okay, I'm done with this thing. It's fine. If somebody tells me about it, I'll make the correction in the document. I'll re-upload it, but I can't stress out about I have other things to write.
Yeah, totally.
So here. Okay, let's see. We talked about your book stuff. You don't get writer's block, which is really weird for me. I think almost every other author, except for some of the Russian guys, apparently there's no real phrase in Russian for writer's block. I was super surprised that they're all like, every single Russian author that I've interviewed, like, writer's block? What is this word? What is this phrasing? And they're like, oh no, we don't get that here.
They're just too tough. Russians, they're just tough. They just they're like, nothing vodka can't fix.
That is my general understanding of most Russian things. Vodka is a great procreator. It's a great blocker of writer's block.
Yep.
Fixes all things.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Series writing versus standalone novel writing. Is there a difference for you?
I want to write series because it's the most. I just like reading series. I've always been a little bit disappointed when I read a book and it ends, and that's like a self-teach. I guess I should lie. I like plenty of books that are just standalone novels, but nothing gets me more excited than reading a story that I love and then reading more about it that I love. Like, no one's happy Serenity was canceled. Come on, like everyone wanted that series to go on forever. And you think about your favorite TV shows or your favorite books, you just want it to keep on going. And when I finished the fourth book of Destroyer, I thought to myself, like, okay, there's a few loose ends, but it's a really good place to stop the story right now so I can work on some other stuff. Because I've been writing those books and they're really long. Like the fourth book is 202,000 words. So I like, this is, and the third one was 180, and they're just giant novels. And I'm like, here's a good place to pause the story, and I'm going to work on some other projects. And you would not believe the emails I get from people that are so fucking mad I am not writing Destroyer. Like, there's angry as you couldn't believe. Like, when's the next one coming out? Like, it hasn't even been a year since I published the fourth one. Like, I've got other books. Check out Lions Quest. You might like it. And if you're like, no, I want Destroyer right now. I need it. And so, like, if people love the characters, they just want to keep reading about them forever. And even my favorite standalone novels, I think, like, okay, this ended, but I would buy another story. I would totally buy and read another story. So I think I personally like series. I like getting really attached to characters. I want to keep reading them. So I really write the stuff I want to read. So
is there a difference in writing a series versus a standalone? Like, is it more challenging, less challenging, or the unique challenges?
It's probably harder. I'm not a really brief writer. Like, I'm really long-winded. You probably noticed when I write, I'm super long. And that probably comes from my role-playing days of, being a GM and like, okay, you guys walk in a room and the party's like, what's in the room? There's a desk. Where exactly is the desk? It's, okay, here. What is the desk made out of? Like, come on, guys, look at the fucking desk. But you know how players are, these role-playing games. Like, anything you don't say can and will be used against you like 5 minutes later when the combat starts. So, like, I'm probably a little too long-winded about that stuff. So it would be hard for me to write a standalone novel. I think it was short. I think my Destroyer stuff has a lot of cliffhangers, and people say they don't like cliffhangers, but they buy the next book. So I don't really, you almost can never trust your customers saying stuff. You got to look at the results.
Yeah.
Have you ever Malcolm Gladwell? Do you know who he is?
I don't. What's the name again?
He wrote. Malcolm Gladwell. He's an author. He wrote.
Oh yeah, 1,000. What is it?
Blink and Tipping Point and Wag the Dog. He's got this story about Prego and Ragu spaghetti sauce. I don't know if you should check it. It's available. You can actually read it online. But for a while, everyone was like, you have spicy spaghetti sauce and you have non-spicy spaghetti sauce. And Prego and Ragu kept trying to reinvent these two things, and they kept going to do like ask their customers, like these focus groups, like, do you like this kind of spice or that kind of spice or this kind of plain or that kind of plain? And that's so all their focus groups would just give them feedback about that. And then one day, I think it was Ragu, it could have been Prego, I don't know, one of them, just said, like, we're going to just have a million different types of spaghetti sauce. And we're going to put chunky stuff with like big old chunks of vegetables. We're going to put stuff with meat in there. We're just going to lay it all out on the table, crazy stuff. We're going to get insane with this, and we're going to see what happens. And lo and behold, everyone's like, oh, what's this chunky spaghetti sauce? This is amazing. I want this. They would have never, ever thought of it before. So you can't always trust what the consumers tell you that they want, because that's not exactly, like, you always got to look at the numbers, because a lot of people say with Destroyer, there's just a lot of sex in it. I hate sex, and it's too violent, and I hate shifting point of views. Like, I get all this feedback, and I get so many negative reviews on that series. But then I look at the sales, and I'm like, well, obviously you are an outliner, because I have crazy good buy-through on that series. And it's like 40% of the people that buy it, that get the first book for free, buy the second book. 85% that buy the second book, buy the third. 100% that buy the third, buy the fourth. Like, so people obviously like the sex in the book. They're just not very vocal about it. So, but if I were to look at the reviews of that book and take them to heart, I would be like, I can never write a book with sex again. I can never write a book with shifting point of views. I can never write a book that's violent, because people obviously hate this kind of story. But if I look at the numbers are telling a completely different story, that I need to write way more Destroyer, and I need to put a lot of sex in all my books. So,
yeah, basically you're looking at actual data versus the vocal minority.
Yeah,
and that's that. I'm always a huge fan of like actual data driving sales and writing, or driving decisions. instead of just listening to random points of view, because it's hard to differentiate whether this is a genuinely common point of view or it's just
outspoken minority.
Yeah, the vocal complainer. Yeah,
and you won't know how good a book is until the next book comes out, because then you can see your buy through. So if you write a book and you get tons of awesome reviews and people seem to love it, but then you write a book 2 and no one buys the book 2, you were misled. Obviously, no one liked book 1, and they just didn't leave a review. So it's really like a tough business, because you can look at all these reviews and you can look at the ranking and you can think like, wow, my book's doing really good. I better write a second one, but then the second one could totally flop and you just miss something about something in there that you didn't see. So you should stress out about your second book if you are already stressed out.
I am now. Thank you very much.
All of my second books I've always freaked out about. I remember Lions Quest 2. I was like, oh my God, I hope this works out, because people seem to like the first book, but I don't know what's going to happen with the second one. And I've seen plenty of people tank, but I don't think you're going to have a problem, because you know exactly what readers want in this genre. So
I thought I did until you mentioned all that stuff, man. Thanks.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's just tough because you see the negative reviews, and it could just, I guess, it'd be the outspoken minority. You don't know, but you'll know for a fact when you publish book 2. If book 2 comes out and it is awesome, then you got a real winner there, and you need to keep writing that series. But if it doesn't do as good as book 1, or like the numbers don't make sense, then unfortunately, if it is a business and you're full time, you can't afford to keep writing in that series. You got to figure out, what did I do wrong, and really look at book 1 and where did I lose people and how did I screw up, and and fix it. Now, I don't think you're gonna have a problem, because you did so well with your first book. And
cross my fingers. Okay, I'm gonna ask another question, because now I'm just getting paranoid. Okay, we'll talk a little about the business side of it. More to pay. You self-publish your books on Amazon. Okay. Why did you choose to go that route instead of traditional publishing?
So when I was writing The Destroyer, I came out with I wrote book 1 and wrote book 2. I didn't edit them. And I wanted to write a book 2 because I thought it would be sexier for traditional publishers, to have 2 books and then have the outline for the third and the outline for fourth. Because I would have like a really big body of work that I think they can get behind. And my background was in sales. It's all I've done, since I graduated college. So I was like, how do I sell this better to digital publishers? And I thought, maybe if I've got a huge fan base already, I should try to share the books for free and see if I could, get a huge fan base and a website and have so I can go to a publisher and say I've got thousands of fans already, right? And this is back at probably 2012. I think I was thinking about this. So I thought well, what's this Kindle thing? I think people are putting their books for free on Kindle. I should look into this Kindle thing. So I went to Google and I'm like, how do you publish on Kindle? And I ran into Lyndsey Brokers' website. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's a self-published indie author. She writes steampunk. And she's really open with how she did her marketing, and she had the first book in her series free, and how she promoted and advertised it. And then she listed the money she made. And I sat there and I looked at how much money she was making off of her steampunk books. And I bought one of her steampunk books and I read through it. I'm like, wow, she's not a literary genius. She's just writing pulp, steampunk novels for chicks. Yeah. And I looked at how much money at the time she was making $400,000. And I was like, okay, wow. Why even bother with traditional publishing? Why even bother? I'm just going to go and try to self-publish. So I'm not doing as good as Lyndsey, but I was able to make more than I was making at my day job, and it seems like every month gets a little bit better. So I'm excited about the business. Good. But again, Lyndsey's also one of those authors that she comes out with a book or 2 every month. She's consistently writes 5,000 to 6,000 words every single day, and all the authors I talk with, a big chunk of them I talk with every day are I write a ton of books every day, or a ton of words every day, and they seem to be the most successful. Successful meaning making over $250,000 a year.
I think it's easier to that particular method instead of focusing on one masterpiece. It's I'm gonna say it's less risky to put a bunch of things every single month or every couple months, and because then you have more stability as far as if this portion doesn't do well, I saw these guys over here who are doing decently and maybe have 1 or 2 bestsellers, but you have to have that balance between if one doesn't succeed, it doesn't take your whole life, it doesn't take your whole career. You have a bunch of other things going on that make you maybe slightly less money, than a Stephen King novel, but overall, because there's a bunch of things going on, you have a little bit more stability if things fluctuate in one particular genre over another.
People are going to read books, and people love books.
Yep.
I've always loved reading. Everyone I know loves reading. They're not going anywhere. I think there's definitely some competition with like Netflix now being kind of sort of free, and just it's so easy to get video games now. There's so many video games. I think we've got competition there, but I think people still love reading stories. Yep. And it goes back to like talent and meets like work ethic. And if you have the talent and you can work like treat it like a job and work at it every day, and you can pay attention to what's where the market is, I think someone could do well. But I think building that talent is something that it's hard for a lot of people, because they might look at what we're doing and say like, well, I could write a book like that. And when I came up with The Destroyer, like my first books, I had a lot of people say like, how'd you write this book? Like your first books did so well. How'd you write that? Well, I mean, I kind of been doing stories ever since I was 8, when I was sitting playing role-playing games and like writing out what would happen. So I kind of have been doing stories a long time, just not really in a novel form. And I look at it now as like, I'm just playing a role-playing game with myself. It's like masturbation, it's just like, that's what I'm doing. And I get paid for it. Hey,
it's calling it masturbation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like masturbation.
Okay. Thank you for that information. Talk a little bit about pricing strategy. I've noticed, just looking at your books today, they're priced very differently sometimes. We go from free to $2.99 to like $9.95. I'm kind of curious as to how you decide how to price your novels.
So I looked at, when I first came up with Destroyer, I figured the first book I would do the free strategy. The first book would free. So if someone would just want to get used to my writing or discover me as a writer, I would have that. And then, but that's still a long book. It's still 136 something thousand words. So it's a huge book they get for free. Destroyer, yeah, book 1. And then book 2 I put at $3.99. Which I thought was, again, like super cheap for how long that book is. It's 165,000 words. So that's a really like inexpensive book. And then I priced book 3 and 4 at like $10 each. And I think a lot of people like didn't like that, but I thought the way I looked at it was, you're really getting 4 epically long books for $24. Like you're getting that whole series is almost twice as long as the whole Lord of the Rings series, including the Silmarillion. So like if you take those 5 books in Lord of the Rings, it's still not as long as the 4 books of Destroyer. So it's like, so I thought that I thought it was a fair price. And some people complain, they're like, I'm not going to pay $10 for an ebook, no matter what happens. And I'm just not even going to bother reading your first book. I'm not going to bother reading your second book because it's $10 for the third and fourth book. That's fair, whatever. But also like maybe the books were too long. Maybe if I had shortened them each and charged $4, I could have squeezed 20 books out of those 4 and made a lot more money. So I don't know. It's tough to tell really what's the right pricing strategy. When I did Lion's Quest, I thought again, I'm like, these are really long books. And I think my writing is good, and I really compared myself to the Russians, because I'm like, the Russians are charging $7 a book.
Yep.
And it's translated. I tried to read some of the Russian stuff. And it's just not my style. But I thought the grammar was off. Like you could tell they were translated. And I just thought, like, people are paying $6 for the Russian stuff. They'll pay, or $6 or $7 for the Russian stuff. They'll pay, for mine. They'll pay that. And I didn't do Kindle Unlimited at first because I had so many. I had so many fans in Kobo and other stories. But I switched. I ended up putting everything Kindle Unlimited, and that was probably after like talking to Travis Bagwell for a long time and talking to some other authors about, the books are so long. I still make probably around the same amount of money. And I just got to treat it as an advertising expense, really, because the way Amazon works is they recommend it based on how many people have borrowed and bought the book. So if I don't have any borrows on it and only buys, the book just doesn't get recommended enough. So if I want to get recommended more, like I just thought like I would pay money to advertise to get the books pushed in front of people, but really that's kind of limited, where I'm instead of getting the full price for my book, I get a portion of the price, but it gets pushed to more people. So I just kind of changed my outlook on it. Instead of people are reading my book for free, and maybe I'm getting paid for it at the end of the month. Like that was what I was thinking before. I changed it into like, this is kind of advertising that I'm paying for, And I think once I had that kind of change in my mindset, it was a lot easier to stomach, and the books have done really good since then. And I might put the Destroyer in Kindle Limited someday. I don't know. I think I'm at the point where if I come up with a book 5, it'll probably hit New York Times bestseller just because I've sold so many of book 4. So I might not do it just so I can hit that again and just, I did it twice. Yeah. So, but I don't know. But I definitely, I think Kindle Unlimited it's really good for readers. It's kind of done a disservice to authors, because I do think people would have bought the books, that people still read. They're just reading for cheaper now. And now they're used to paying less for a book. And again, that's good for readers. That's awesome for readers. And I totally understand why they would want to pay less. But I definitely feel like there's a little bit of a race to the bottom as far as how much we're getting compensated for our work. And there will be a point in time where it'll probably swing too far and authors will think like, I just can't afford to write anymore. And I can't afford to edit anymore. And I can't afford to do cover art anymore. I think there might be a backlash with readers then saying, I'm not going to do anything in Kindle Unlimited because obviously these authors aren't being compensated correctly. Maybe it'll get there, maybe not. Who knows? I have no idea where the future's going to go.
To me, it always kind of feels the same way it does for the freemium model, where you're instead of putting it for free, in case you don't have money anyways, you put it out for Kindle Unlimited and you get that broader base, but book 2, book 3, whatever, you're not in Kindle Unlimited because nobody forces you on a contract on that. And by book 2 or 3, you already have that established user fan base who's willing to put out whatever price that's reasonable for your work and for your novel. And I've seen plenty of people do that same model instead of just book 1's free, book 2 is cheaper, book 3 is regular priced, and book 4. And so they don't make their money until book 4 or 5 or 6, whatever it is. They just, a relatively inexpensive price for book 1. Also in Kindle Unlimited though, so the people who are on that program are willing to take a risk, whether they've read anything in your genre before or anything from you. That to me, that's the benefit of Kindle Unlimited. It's not that it's not that it's being pushed to people. It's that people are willing to take a risk on reading an unknown person, unknown author. And so if that's where you're starting out at, especially for me, which I was, like I had to put in Kindle because I'm like, nobody knows me. And so for people to take a risk on me, they have to feel like, there's not a real risk for them to do it because it's Kindle Unlimited. Essentially, in their minds, it's free for them. But if they get to my super long book, the more pages they read, the more I get paid. And so it benefits me, especially for like the longer books, like we kind of write, but then in book 2, book 3, whatever, I could always just go with the regular price. And if they're already a fan, okay, they'll pay that price tag.
Yeah. I want to make sure that my readers feel like they're getting a good value and they like the stories and they feel like it's worth buying and they're eager for the next books. And just the name of the game right now is Kindle Unlimited. And I'm a fan that more people get exposed to my work and at a value that they like, but I'm also I'm just a little scared of it because, they're really not paying for the book. And we're really held hostage to whatever Amazon decides to pay us at the end of the month. And if there's been plenty of errors with the page reads and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's not, a lot of people compare it to like Netflix, subscription based. But it's not really the same case because those shows on Netflix, they're either getting paid by Netflix right up the front or Netflix is paying to have those developed. And Amazon's not coming to me and saying, hey, put your book on Kindle Unlimited and we're going to give you $10,000.
Right.
I pay for everything to get done and edited. I invest my time in it. And then I put it up on Kindle Unlimited. And then at the end of the month, they say, oh, congratulations, this is how much we're paying you. And that's just kind of scary.
But it's also a limited contract. And that
totally.
is only required for exclusivity for, 3 months, I think it is?
Yeah. But it's not even so much the contract. That's just the situation right now. Like you can't, I looked at my sales before on Lions Quest before and after Kindle Unlimited. And with the push they gave me, I pretty much sold exactly the same I did out of Kindle Unlimited that I did with Kindle Unlimited only, so it sounds stupid. It's like, I feel like I might be complaining about nothing, but it's just a concern as if I look long-term, like, am I going to be doing this 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years from now? What's going to be, how will this change and how will Amazon continue to own the marketplace? And if they own all distribution channels and everything, and they decide they don't want to pay anything for page reads, that could be bad, or maybe not. I hope at the point I've got an audience that's big enough. I've got a Patreon that supports me or something like that. But this business has changed so much. Even like last year when I came with Destroyer and I did perma-free on the first book, and I still have the first book free. That was a strategy, really. And Kindle Unlimited was still, it was out there, but like not that many people were doing that great with it. And I think you look now and like if you're not in Kindle Unlimited, you're really shooting yourself in the foot because you're just not getting exposure to readers as you are when you're in it. And who knows what's going to happen next year. Who knows what's going to happen the year after that? Once upon a time, Amazon paid half the commission that they do now. And what happened was iBooks came out and offered us way more money. And so Kobo and Barnes & Nobles, and then Amazon was like, okay, cool, we're going to raise your commission then, authors.
Yeah, competition.
Yeah, because competition. But like, what happens if Apple says, we're going to get out of this game, or Kobo's going to get out of the game because Amazon just owns them? That would be really troublesome. And it might mean a lot of us couldn't continue to write. But I don't know. I don't know if you saw, like, I had a discussion about audio.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. It's like you kind of have the same idea about audiobooks and whether to use Audible instead of
audio is really tough for us right now because it's probably even worse than books, because you can figure we read a book and we could do it on a really shoestring budget. It's just our time. But to have an audio production made, like, it cost me several $1,000s to get Lions One made, and I can't control the price. The payout is they take 60%. So I get 40% on pretty much something it's my property and I pay to produce it, but they take 60% of it, and they control the price. So I can't even charge what I want to charge on it. And they have something called Whisper Sync, where you buy the audiobook and then you Whisper Sync it, and I only make like 40 cents off that. So it's like really like on one hand, people want audiobooks, but on the other hand, they don't really want to pay for them. And I just looking at the numbers, like I did okay on Lions Quest 1, but I'm doing Lions Quest 2, but I'm looking at the sales. I'm like, I don't think I could do Lions Quest 3, and that's kind of a shame. And I don't think really the listeners understand that Amazon just doesn't pay us, that Amazon takes 60%.
Right. No, I agree with you on that. For me, I had a different viewpoint because I knew as soon as I had any success on Adventures in Terror Book 1, like, I have to make an audiobook. One, because I love audiobooks. That's just me. Yeah,
totally.
I make the things that I love. But on the other hand, I was saying is it's just another source of revenue on something that I've already created. I saw the investment in the creation of it as an investment. I didn't see it as them stealing money from me as much as this is just going to be extra money that I get over the course of whatever X years. And as I write more books and I create more audiobooks, those earlier audiobooks are also going to increase in sales, as in the same way that your series do on Amazon. So
you hope that would happen.
Yeah.
But I think and your logic, what you just said, has other authors have said to me. They're like, well, it's pretty much free money. You spend the money and you're going to get it back. But I still look at it like that's kind of how Amazon's got us by the balls.
Yeah.
Because that's how they can justify taking 60%, because, well, you've already created it and all you got to do is pour a little bit of money into a narrator and you'll hopefully get your money back. And so that's how they're doing it. And they used to pay out 60 to 70%, even like 90% in some titles. I mean, they changed that around. I don't know why they changed it around, but they have the potential to pay more.
No, I'm not saying that they couldn't pay more.
Yeah.
So authors, I'm saying, from my point of view, and this is, I'm new, so I don't have any super lot of skin in the game. That's just another source of revenue for me. Could I wish that I could make more money off it? Sure. I wish I made personally 3x what I invested into the audiobook sales in like the couple months that it came out. So I'm like, okay, I'm already happy. Then if I can make 5, 10, 20x, whatever it is, then hey, that's a heck of a lot, because from my point of view, the book definitely makes that. I invested time and I just put it up for free. And there's no real investment capital besides, cover arts, editors, all that kind of stuff. But comparatively, audiobooks are a heck of a lot more expensive to make. On the other side of it, it's also a much smaller marketplace. There aren't millions of audiobooks out there.
Yep.
There are millions of ebooks. And so the audiobook section of it potentially has more long-term profitability than the ebook section of it, as far as like what you're investing in it potentially. And that's just my point of view. Maybe I'm wrong.
Did you break even on your audiobook?
What was that?
Did you break even on your audiobook?
Oh, I thought I made 3 times what I invested in already. So
I haven't done that well with Lions Quest. You've sold more for me. So I look at it and I'm like, if I assume I'm going to sell maybe 80% of what I do for Lions Quest 1, Lions Quest 2, and then another 80%, like I'm going to lose it. Unless it gets a boost every book, which happens with novels, but it doesn't necessarily happen with audiobooks.
I mean, this is just my personal audiobook experience. If I see book 2, I immediately go back and give book one first. If I listen to the sample of book, I'm like, oh, this sounds cool, but I can't start in the middle. I have to start at the beginning. So book one automatically gets boosted in sales from my perspective as a consumer. As far as like, this is just my personal point of view. I planned the audiobook immediately after I had any success with the ebook. But even before I wrote that, I already knew if this ebook does well, I'm going to do an audiobook. And that just to me makes sense because I wanted to capitalize on just that initial rush of, because I see this again and again in sales because I review these books, and especially in LitRPG, I can't speak with other genres, that the first 2 weeks of your book's publishing is going to determine whether or not your book is going to be successful. Yeah. If you get a ton of readers, ton of reviews in that particular section of it, that it's just going to spiral in the Amazon formula that they use as far as like advertising goes, putting it out to other people, and Kindle Unlimited really does help it in that initial run. Of getting as much exposure as possible and getting many eyeballs on this, because that'll keep you on those Amazon charts and keeping all those recommendations going, and that leads into direct sales. At least for me, it was into audiobook sales, because they, even with the Whisper Sync model, if they're paying $3 or $4, and this is my point of view, that's $3 or $4 I wouldn't have made had I not already invested in the audiobook version. I think of it as almost like a consumer add-on. Like you go to a restaurant, you get your main meal, but the restaurant doesn't make their profitability on the hamburger. They make it on the fries and the soda.
The drinks and the appetizers and the dessert.
Yeah, all those add-on things. And I kind of see audiobooks in that respect. And that's money I would not have made had I not already chosen to invest in it and have it set up to be available for the people who are not just readers, but also audiobook readers.
Yeah, and I think the way you look at it is the way the Amazon's looking at it too, because they think like, well, this is just an extra thing authors can do to make money, and that's. I tend to be like the guy that's always screaming the sky is falling in the publishing industry. So like, I look at Kindle Unlimited, I'm like, no, the sky is falling, and like it's probably not that bad. And I look at audiobooks and I'm like, oh, the sky is falling, they're not paying us enough, and I'm probably wrong, but it's definitely when I feel like my whole income is tied into Amazon so closely. Yeah, I just get really worried as to, and I see the stuff they do with Comixology, the payouts there, and I look at Audible, and I'm like, thank God iBooks is out and Kobo is out and Barnes & Noble is still around, because
competition to force them.
Yeah, if they weren't around, we would probably make half as much money as we did right now, because Amazon would just own the distribution and they'd say, we're going to pay you whatever we feel like paying you and go pound sand.
Now, let me ask you, do you use those other distribution opportunities like Kobo, iTunes?
Yeah, I do for Destroyer Still Wide release, so it's in all those other stores. And I think my Rockstar Romance is not in KU, so it's wide, and so is I think that's it. So those two series.
Is there like a difference in like sales or like audiences between those distribution channels?
I think the iBooks people are way less price sensitive. Like my buy through rate on Destroyer is like way better, which I mean it's already really good, so it's even like better. Like I'll have 100% of the people that download the first book free buy the second book. The issue with it is Amazon's algorithms are so much better. If like let's say you walk into a bookstore, right, and you want to read a fantasy novel, and you just walk to the fantasy section, there's an aisle there, and you're like, okay, what do I get? And you walk around, you look at the titles, and then you pick one. That's like a bookstore experience, right? That's right. How Kobo and iBooks and Barnes & Noble are. Like you just try to find a book. Now, Amazon has a dude standing in the fantasy section, and he's like, how you doing today? Oh, I'm doing good. Cool. What kind of book do you like? Well, I like these 3 books. Awesome. You were going to love this book. Here, let me give it to you. And that's why Amazon just kills these guys, because they have the recommendation system. They know what kind of books you like to read. They know what people are buying other books, and they are just pushing emails to you telling you which book to get that you're going to love. Right. And no other of these retailers do it. So if I want to push something on iBooks, I have to spend money in advertising to push something on iBooks. Now, when I do, I get a good ROI because everyone that downloads the first book reads the rest. But if I do the same thing on Amazon, not only do I get a boost in sales, but I get a trend where they start thinking, hey, people are buying Destroyer again. Let me start recommending it to people again. Right. And I get a nice long tail of it being recommended to people again. So Amazon just is so much smarter than these guys. But it's awesome, but it's also frustrating because I don't want iBooks and Kobo and Barnes & Noble to go away, because then Amazon's going to go back to paying us half what they paid us before. It
right,
totally
there's an
will.
incentive for them to pay
Yeah. So I really want like Apple and Kobo and Barnes & Noble to get their shit together and like do it. And I want them to make a viable platform, but they just I don't know what the deal is, dude. I don't know. They just don't want to play the game, or if maybe it's just really expensive to make this kind of recommendation technology that Amazon has, and they just don't do it. But I really wish they would.
As a consumer, it's great. I mean, recommendations, get cheap books, you get tons of entertainment at a relatively inexpensive price. But as the producer, it's like, oh, there's the other side of the coin. Like, oh yeah, it's a lot cheaper, which means we get paid less. And I get both sides of the coin. And I get more of it now that I'm the content producer.
Yeah. So there's always going to be a balance between people that don't really want to pay anything for your stuff and the creators that like need to get paid to like make it. There's always going to be this kind of struggle between them.
But at the same time, as somebody who produces content for free, any payment is always nice for me. I'm like, I put out this podcast totally for free just because it's fun and it's a project and it's a way for me to express myself. That's the viewpoint I kind of took when I wrote my book, because I didn't expect to make money. I didn't expect people to actually read it. I knew my wife liked it. I knew I liked it as a LitRPG consumer. And for me, when I initially wrote it, it was just, I'm making something, I'm self-expressing, and if people like it, great. Yeah. And I kind of sort of had to shift my point of view doing this full time now, that it's not just self-expression, it's I got bills to pay, and this is my source of income. And so there is that shift from amateur author to full-time, writer. Yeah.
It's good. It's a great feeling. It's also kind of weird too, like how it changes like our egos. Like, there's so many authors that I talk to, and like, man, yeah, we are just a bunch of arrogant fucks, aren't we? Writing this stuff, because it's like I said, it's our masturbation, and people are like loving it and paying for it, and it's like it's kind of mind blowing, but it's really easy to go to your head. But
it's very much like your storyteller cam girl.
Yeah, but I've had enough failures now. Like I've had series that just like blew it and just sucked, that I've been humbled enough to know that I need to write stuff that people really want to read. I can't just write whatever I feel like writing. It doesn't work like that. I got to be looking at what people like to read and what they're excited about and what's going to keep them reading the next stuff. And I need to make people more happy instead of just do whatever I want to do. And it took like several punches in the face for me to get that. And those were my failed series that I love, and few other people love, but they just never sold that well.
And that's kind of the difference between writing for the hobby and writing for your job, is that you have to take that other side. And it can't just be all about your story. It can be all about you and you having a good time writing this thing. It has to be about somebody actually has to buy this thing at some point,
Yeah, totally.
So there you go. So, okay, that's pretty much all the questions I have here. We'll move on to questions from the audience.
Okay.
We'll give you a couple of those. We'll begin with Jay Taylor. He has quite a few questions for you. We'll begin with, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
So it's 13? Is that the answer? Or 42?
Okay, 40, is it 42 or 43? I was thinking of, all the answers of the universe. There you go. Okay. His real serious question is, when is book 4 going to be ready? And I'm assuming the Lions Quest series.
Yeah. I'm going to work on, it depends on how book 3 does. I'm going to do 6 books no matter what. Cause I've got a 6 books or 5 books. Yeah, 6 books no matter what. So I've got so even if Lions Quest 3 doesn't do that great, I will probably still write 3 more. But I hope it does good. I think it's going to do good because the first 2 they did pretty good. But I need to finish. I want to get up to Star Justice 3, so I'm going to write another Star Justice novel after the second one, and then I'll bounce back and do a Lions Quest 3. And then I get people asking about Destroyer. It's probably the next question. When's Destroyer Book 5 coming out?
Yeah, that's someone's question down the line. Yeah.
So I'm probably going to get Lions Quest up to 4, and then Star Justice up to 4, and then I'll do. We got kids. It's all. You hear my little ones in the background probably. So I'll probably get those up to 4, and then I'll jump back into Destroyer. The problem I have with Destroyer writing it is that it's I do every book has a cliffhanger at the end. So if you don't like cliffhangers, you're not gonna like my series. But however, like I said earlier, it sells. So if I write Destroyer Book 5, it's gonna have a cliffhanger, and I'll have to write 6, and I'll have to write 7, I'll have to write 8. So
it's an issue
I kind of have to block.
Yeah.
Like a significant time so that I can make sure I get them done. So it's going to be like a big commitment to write. So I've been kind of holding off on it. And I also feel like the story is really good to sit right where it's at book 4. So I just haven't really pushed the next ones yet, but I have the cover art for 5 ready. So
okay. Well, that's good. Well, you have a cover art plan in advance of your actual story?
Yeah, well, I have the outline ready. I know what I'm
Okay.
gonna write, so I knew what who was going to be the focus point of the book, so I had it all, the cover art done. And I normally do that as soon as I start writing a book. I get the cover commission because I know who's going to be in the cover and stuff. And
especially on your writing schedule, you have to plan your cover art in advance. Because with me, I've been writing over the course like 4 or 5, 6 months for one book.
Yeah.
With you, it's like my book's gonna be done by the end of the month, so I have to start it at the beginning. Otherwise, it's just not ready.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because it takes me like a month to write. So and normally it takes the artist like 3 weeks to 4 weeks to finish it, and then it has to go to the typographer to do the typography. So that's another week or so. So I'm always, when I did the first cover for Lion's Quest 1, I used an artist, and I really didn't like the cover art when it was done. So I went back and I did use another artist for. Well, I just changed and just did a completely new cover art. So I was like really late with that. It was nerve-wracking to not have the cover done when the book was done. I was just like, I was just seeing the money like go down the tube. Like, this book is done and I cannot publish it because the cover's not ready. Like, I was just so pissed.
No, I hear. Yeah, I was kind of delayed a little bit on my own because I forgot about the cover. I'm like, oh wait, I get everything done, or it's just not going to sell because covers really matter. Just like anything else. It's the first thing they see, and the first thing they're going to judge your story by.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay, next question, Bobby Bjorstrom. When is the spinoff for his favorite character, the orc, going to happen? He suggests maybe a prequel about how he got the other pieces of armor, and maybe an in-depth guide to orc mating.
I don't know. That's good. I love Cornelic. He's like one of my favorite characters. I think one of the favorite characters I've ever written. The other one is, if you read Hell High yet, Satan is a character in the book, and he's like this old Jewish dad in the book. So I think he's like hilarious. But like, I love Cornelic too. He's awesome. I don't know if I'm going to do a spinoff for him. It depends. I think I got to finish Leo's story first, and that's going to be the hope of 16 books. And then when I finish that, I'll probably have other LitRPG stuff I want to write. But there's a little bit more about Cornelic's background in the third book, so you guys will be excited about that. And there'll be more in future books.
The orc mating, there are some suggestions about how that story arc could go.
Yeah.
Stephen Moore says, technically it's a guides to orc mating with humans.
Yeah.
And Daniel Schinohoffen says, he assumes Cornic got really drunk and painted himself green, stuck carrots in his mouth for fangs, and went on a nice walk. So there are all kinds of story theory for you to use.
Well, in the third book, you'll find out that Cornelic is not half human.
Oh. He's full-on orc then?
No, he's half orc, half something else.
Elf?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Got it.
Okay.
Which explains a lot of stuff, right?
I assume there's a lot of half-elf people just walking around. Just
Totally.
Their mating habits. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So
okay, well, there we go.
That explains him being so talkative and like all that stuff. So.
There we go. Okay. Next question. Richard Gagnon asks, "What was your original inspiration for writing? How did you finally decide to take your first plunge into publishing your work?" Bobby suggests it's the groupies.
Yeah. No, there's no groupies here. I think I talked.
One groupie, right? I mean, the wife.
Yeah, the wife's a groupie.
That's all you need.
I think I talked a little bit about how I was going to go traditional publishing, and then I read Lyndsey's stuff, and then I decided to self-publish. And I don't think self-publishing is really for everyone. I think there's always an argument between self-publishing or traditional publishing. And I think LitRPG has a lot of self-published authors in it because it's not a genre that's really popular with traditionally published.
Well, that's true. I have to say, just reading getting emails from authors or other companies, taking interest in the genre because it is expanding and there's money to be made there. It's becoming less so. Yeah,
we'll see. I mean, if you look at like dark fantasy, like I've been in a couple of their Facebook groups with like dark fantasy, epic fantasy, and they all talk about traditional publishers. There's no, I'll make a post in there like to try to pitch my book, and I'll get like no comments or anyone saying anything, and then someone will pitch a novel from Tor that has 2 reviews, and everyone goes apeshit over it. So I definitely think there's still a stigma around self-publishing authors, but I think if 3-year-old. I think if you can write, a novel every couple months, you can probably do it as a self-publisher. And if you know how to advertise and you can do the covers, you can get editors. If you want to look at this like a business, I think self-publishing is for you. if you just want to write and you want to create masterpieces, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think traditional publishing is definitely a good avenue for people because they do all that work for you and they do the cover art and all that stuff. And I think you'll find great authors in both areas. So,
absolutely. Although I have to say that in the LitRPG genre, I think it's just easier for new authors to come out and self-publishing because, like you said, we're not a big enough genre yet to justify the resources that a traditional publisher would invest in advertising, artwork, editors, all the all the whole shebang. I think there are a few internet-based groups that do the middle ground. Like if you can get enough pre-orders, they'll give you the full publisher treatment. And the author of Send Online, Luke Chamalenko, actually was entered into an Inkshares contest. And that was kind of the middle ground between self-publishing and traditional. Basically, if you get a certain number of pre-orders because you have a fan base or whatever it says, we'll give you the full author treatment. But until you can prove that your book is already well received and there's no interest, we're not going to invest the time in it necessarily. So there's something in the middle. Yeah, it's tough because a lot of traditional publishers, they're used to like being the hottest girl at the party and everyone's asking them out. So like Tor could go and look at Destroyer and be like, we could buy this off Michael Scott for $2 million. And they could look at the sales I've done in the last year. And with their marketing arm and their name on it and putting the Destroyer on the end of every book shelf in the store, they would easily make that money back, no problem. They probably won't ever. I've had a few smaller publishing houses talk to me, but they've made like pretty much like just sign your rights over to us and we'll make you more money. Kind of stupid deals like that. They're doing you the favor.
Yeah, but Tor could come to me and give me a $2 million advance, and they would make that. I absolutely positively make that money back because I've only really touched a teeny tiny percentile of the market on my own with my books and the cover art. But they won't ever come to me because they have 300 people coming to them every hour asking them out. So why, if you're the hottest girl at the party and everyone's asking you out, why would you go look for someone for you to ask them out? It's just not going to happen. So, and I kind of knew that when I went with self-publishing, that it's probably not ever going to get a traditional publisher coming after me. I'm going to still have to go after them. Right. But I just look at the deals, and I have other friends that are looking to get traditionally published and they're self-publishing, and they offer to buy the book for just real pennies on the dollar. Making offers of we'll pay you this advance, and the advance is equal to what they might make, in a week on that same book through self-publishing. And I definitely don't think self-publishing is a get rich quick scheme. I think you can make way more money with traditionally publishing. It hits right. But they're just not used to buying businesses. They're used to taking people and building them up to a business. Where if you're self-published, you have a business. You have a brand. You have this. And traditional publishers, they don't really know how to do that. They don't know how to go and buy a business, which is what they would be doing. They'll make the same offer to me. And like I said, I've had several emails from people. They're like, give us your rights, and we'll put you in bookstores, and you'll make way more money. And I'm like, cool, you can have my print book rights. And they're like, well, no, we want your ebook rights too. And I'm like, no, like what? For free? Like, no, sorry.
And then you I don't know, 4% of whatever profit they make.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And maybe I think there's some agents that are starting to get a little bit smarter now, and they're starting to go to self-published authors and hey, let me see if I can get a deal from you. But I'm way eager to see how. I've got a couple friends that are working with agents, and I'm eager to see how that eventually turns out with them, and if it's good or something.
I'd say kind of the other way around personally. Talking to authors, talking to writers, they're being used so much. It's more and more smaller publishing houses are saying, oh, this is a genre. We'll have our established authors write something in it, and then we already own the rights to it. We're already creating a brand or whatever the case is, and they don't seem to be as successful yet. Mostly because they just don't get what the genre is about, and so they're not really feeding into the audience until maybe book 2, book 3, whatever the case is. But on the other side of that, I've seen larger audiobook houses approach RPG authors and make those same kind of deals of oh, we'll buy your audiobook rights, we'll do all the work, and we'll give you this percentage. And for some authors, that's more profitable because they're not doing the work. They have the content, and somebody else does all the work for them, and that's easier for them. For me, maybe I'm just a control freak, but I like having the ability to choose my narrator, work with them on editing, work with them on content, maybe write down a story so that it flows a little better verbally.
Yeah.
than it does, in the written form. I like being involved in all of those steps because maybe I feel like I have more control and I feel like I have more ownership of the product.
That's exactly where I'm at too. I'm a bit of a control freak, and I want everything to be my way. And I don't want to be employed anymore. Like I don't want people to tell me that, and I think that's a little bit how traditional publishing is that I mean, I'm wrong, because I don't know. I've never been traditionally published, but like give your manuscript to an editor, they bounce it back to you, fix all this shit.
They were just
like,
the guys saying,
now when that happens, I
passing the pretty girl at the dance floor. Maybe that's us.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. It's so I definitely think if someone's watching this and an author, they should try to get traditionally published, because it will if you can get it hit right, it'll do good. But when I just looked at it and I looked at like Lyndsey's, like I said, number of her blogs and stuff. I just thought it'd be good to risk it on myself, and ended up turning okay. But there's plenty of other stories where people didn't make it work and had to go back to work. And who knows, maybe a year from now or 2 years from now, I'll have to get a day job because I just can't pay the bills anymore. But
yeah, and that's always the risk with being self-employed in any respect. Your success or failure kind of depends on you, and it's a lot more work because as a self-publisher, you do your advertising, you do your marketing, you have to get your cover art, you have to get it edited, you have to do all these things, do advertising, whatever it is, and you're your publisher. That's the self-publisher part of it, of self-publishing. And so if you can do that work, if you're okay with doing this stuff, do it. But if you're not that kind of person, or you don't feel like doing the work, try self-publish, try traditional, or try that medium version of like Inkshares, who will do it if you can prove you have the sales to justify their investment in you as a writer. So there are plenty of options for it. Okay, next question though. Nate asked about the Destroyer series. We're going to come back to it. I think you already answered that already though. So we're going to move on to Jay Taylor again has a fun question. Why do you have all the cat motifs? And do you see yourself as a crazy cat dude when you're older?
No, I don't know how that worked out. I know in Concrete Chaos, the main character, she has a cat helmet. I just made that series is just really anime feeling. So she had a cat helmet and there's a cat on the side of her badass motorcycle. I kind of went with that. And then with Lion's Quest, I don't know. I was just thinking like, I want like, what is like the biggest thing of the jungle? And I thought, a lion's like so prestigious and big. And if this guy's gonna be the champion, like it just makes sense, lion. And I wanted to do something quest, so feel like a video game. So that's what I came up with for Lion's Quest. So it wasn't really like, I actually don't have a cat. I've got, you hear my dog barking, I've got a dog. And I've got a tortoise and a fish,
So wait, no, you don't actually have a cat? Is that what you're saying?
I actually have a cat. Where's my Nibbles?
Oh, so you do have a cat. So there you go. So
no, I don't have a cat. I do not.
Okay.
It's just my dog. Here, this is my dog.
Yeah, you're kind of either a dog or a cat person.
Yeah, this is my dog. He's a Yorkie poo, and it's kind of a rescue. We found him on the street, roaming around a major highway, and he had a collar on but no tag. Found his owners, and we got in touch with them and gave him back. And they called us 2 weeks later and said he just stays in the garage. He never gets out. You guys want him? So we took him, and he's been a pretty good dog so far. He just barks all the time.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we got our dog as well. Little mix, real swingy jumper. Like she was right here. She would jump in the screen like over and over. Kind of a rescue as well. So I hear you, man. So you're more of a. I'm surprised you don't have more dog motifs then. I mean, maybe Leo's rival should be dog oriented.
Yeah. Well, that could be good. I can think of that. I think I don't know. When I wrote the Eye of the Tiger, the Star Justice novel, I was like gonna do a werewolf because it's kind of a paranormal space opera. And I was like, what's more badass than a wolf? Like a lion. Well, I've already done a lion. What's more badass than a lion? A tiger is actually way more badass than a lion. Like a tiger is bigger than a lion. I'm like, I'm just going to do a were-tiger. That's what I'm going to do. And it ended up like being that.
So is your main character actually a were-tiger, or like a beast-kin kind of character? He's
like a were-tiger. He can change from a tiger. It's like this. I told people I was going to do this story, and they're like, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard." I was like, "I want to do Serenity in space with a vampire and a were-tiger," and people were like, "You're going to lose so much money doing that. Like, it's not going to work at all." I
would advise you the opposite. I would be like, "Where can I pre-order?"
Yeah. That's how it turned out. It's like wildly successful. So I'm really happy about it. But whatever, were-tiger.
Whatever salesman in this case. Okay, next question. Mario Storian asks, do you plot a novel, like in the 3-act structure, character profiles, screen setups, whatever, And what is your specific writing schedule and word count? We talked about your word count, and you could go for like 5,000 words a day, so we can skip that. But how do you actually plot your novels?
I'll just do like a like I've got like a, I don't know if you can see a little notepad that I've got, and I'll normally have like a few scenes that I'll just bullet note out, and then I'll have names of characters and stuff, and I'll try to make some quirky characters. I normally try to do is a comedy kind of theory about straight line versus wavy line. And it kind of comes from the straight man type comedy routine, but there's got to be a character that just sees the world this certain way and can never deviate from that point of view. And then there's got to be a character that like understands the first character is like ridiculous. And so then that's the point of view of the audience. So in like Lion's Quest, you've got like Alluri and you've got Cornalic that are like the straight line characters that this is how the world is. I'm going to keep doing this way. And if I fail, I'm just going to keep doing it harder this way. And Leo is like the wavy line everyday man where he sees how ridiculous this stuff is, and points it out. And the same thing with like the Hell High series where the main character is, kind of the wavy line. It's the everyday man and everything around him is just completely crazy. And he gets it. So I try to do some sort of set of characters like that. Try to give characters personality quirks. I really love comedy a lot. And I loved like Seinfeld. I loved Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I don't know if you've seen that. It's on. I really love that show. Schitt's Creek I loved. Any sort of like, then when I was watching Serenity, like all the funny parts I really dug. So I try to put some sort of funny character in it. When I in my Star Justice novels, the main character is actually like the straight line. He's like the heavy Marine. Like if I can't shoot this, I'm just going to shoot it more to fix my problems. And there's a hacker in the story that's actually the wavy line that she's like, this is ridiculous, right? Like we can't, the three of us or the two of us can't go and take out 30 guys, and he's like, yeah, we can, but then he just does it, so it's like, I always kind of have those character elements in my stories. But just outline, think of the characters, and
that's fascinating. I don't do nearly as much planning as you do. I have 1 2 books, subscribed to book 2 now. So, but the thing about it, I kind of did the same thing accidentally. In that most of the fantasy characters within the world that the characters transfer to do are all straight lines. They live in a certain system and they act according to the rules that they've established within their social structures, cultural norms, whatever the case is. And the main character and his favorite guide are the wavy lines that they're flexible. They think differently because they've experienced our world and all the movie, television tropes we have here, and so they can see these weird things about the world that they currently exist. I'm like, that does make sense, and I did it accidentally. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah. And you can see that a lot when you watch like an episode of Seinfeld, right? You can see how Jerry is like the wavy line where he's like kind of the everyman, and then you've got like Kramer and George and Elaine that are just completely wacky with these certain characters, and all you got to do is just put them in a room together and like the magic happens because they're all crazy in different ways and they conflict each other, and then you've got this point of view from this character that's less crazy than everyone else. And in my opinion, that's comedy. Is just you got these or another aspect of comedy is you've got people trying to do things outside of what they're capable of doing, like Jason Statham walking into a room full of ninjas is not very funny because he's going to kick their ass and it's going to be awesome. But Woody Allen walking into a room full of ninjas is like funny, right? Because he's like, how am I going to do that? So figuring out places to put, your characters in positions where it's not their strengths to do that thing. Like when in Lion's Quest 2 and Leo dealing with Cornalic, that was not his, he didn't know how to deal with this guy that thought it was okay that he stole from him because they didn't know they were going to be friends. So he's completely justifying everything he does. And Leo's whole life is he works hard, but he's reached a point in his life where everyone just does stuff for him because he tells them to, because he's the richest, most powerful man in the world. Right. So he obviously has got this thing where how do I deal with this guy that I can't convince of things? Or how do I deal with this elf that just wants to have sex with me, but I can't, she's one-track mind, and I need to accomplish this mission. The whole first book when he's trying to save Artis, and she just wants to have sex with him. That's my, him dealing with that awkward situation of that. And so I try to add those comedic type scenes in the book where, maybe you have like, I love the badass main character. So like the badass main character, but put into a position where you can't just punch your way through it, So I try to think of those scenes. I don't do them in every scene, but I try to have at least one or two in a book so that the reader can get a little chuckle out of it or get intrigued.
I approach comedy a little bit differently. I think I'm thinking about, as we're discussing, I'm like, yeah, I do some of that, but not all of that. I think I approach comedy differently in that I try to write the type of comedy that I would like to read or see on television, which I think you do as well. But I think my view of comedy is more of conversational comedy, pop culture comedy, some action stuff, type of comedy. And I was trying to think of how I can make that Jason Statham walks in a room full of ninjas work. I'm thinking Jason Statham, dressed as a clown, beats all the ninjas up with balloon animals.
Yeah. Well, and you could flip this, like, so yeah, that could be funny, him doing that. But then, like, what's the build up into that, scene? Like that's what I did in Lions Quest 1 when Leo was naked and he's having to go through all this stuff. I thought that was funny because of how how it led to that point. But you can flip the situation around with my example earlier, like Woody Allen talking to a guy that just had his heart broken. That's not that funny. But Jason Statham trying to make a guy feel better that just had his heart broken, like that's kind of funny. So you can change. There's the same cast of characters, but two different scenarios, and you can see how the comedy can happen when it's a character not dealing with their strength, but they're still trying to do it. They're still trying to be helpful and useful, but it's just not. You just know it's an uphill battle. So I try to have a lot of scenes in that. And in Lion's Quest, like Leo is obviously like fine fighting and strategic wise, but what can I do to make it challenge in other areas that are funny?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thanks. I get distracted by children. It's okay. It is what it is. Okay, Jeff Hayes, wonderful audiobook narrator. He asks, Havatari or Provolone?
So I say it one more time?
Jeff Hayes asks, Havatari or Provolone? I don't know what this first one is.
I know what Provolone is. Cheese. Okay. I'm an equal opportunity cheese eater. I will eat whatever cheese you put in front of me, I will eat.
There you go, Jeff. He's answered your question. Okay, next one, Harmon Cooper. Orcs or goblins? He has a caveat, though. Please answer with the sound rather than a word.
Oh, geez. I guess was that the sound orcs make, I guess?
I was going to think like, glug, glug. It shall be done, or for the horde.
That's good. I try not to do a Warcraft one. I was starting to think about the Warcraft stuff.
I think like goblins make a unique sound. I find that to be more challenging because I know that orcs have a bunch of sound clips on the internet.
There's a lot of orc kind of lore out there between like the Warhammer stuff and like the Warcraft stuff, but there's not a lot of goblin lore out there.
No, yeah, which is sad. Which is one of the things I try to change in my stories and like taking those underused characters like kobolds, goblins, whatever the case is, and building and fleshing out whole backstories and actual story arcs. And I think that one of the things I liked about the story that I wrote is that one of the main characters is a kobold, small, nobody kind of character that most people see. And in this case, he's a main character. He's interesting, and has a whole culture behind him. Yeah.
And you probably have some comedy stuff you could put in there as he's got to like overcome racial prejudice or something like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, total racial prejudice in the story, although it's speciesism since it's not racist. But yeah, there's also like translation issues. He's kind of the straight man in a lot of the story bits because he's I always heard originally all these races would have their own individual languages as they develop as cultures and societies, and so being second human, being like a second language, then there would be translation issues, which is why they always sound so stupid, but in reality they're not. It's not their native language. So I'm like, I use that.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
Did you play that game Overlord on the PC?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that game. You have an army of the goblins going around doing all that was a great game.
Yeah, I loved it for the same reason I love our Dungeon Master stories, because of the same concept, like the game mechanics work very well in the different kind of role-playing strategy stuff. But that's always what I compare. If I'm telling people like, oh, this is a Dungeon Master story, and they think, oh, bondage. I'm like, no, Overlord. Yeah.
I really like the villain role too. I really do. I think this might be one of the only genres where you can write a villain, and you can. I don't know any other genres where you can write the villain and it works as good. But I dig that the whole concept of this genre. You can write an Overlord. You can write someone, the evil guy, and people will love it.
So basically, any kind of game in hand you can see you've ever played in the history of gaming or tabletopping, it works in the LitRPG genre, as long as your game mechanics are set up correctly and it makes sense. The stories are endless, and I love that about our genre is that there's so many storytelling opportunities. As long as you have that consistent game base where your game world works and it's explained to people, and that's kind of the only qualifier for LitRPG, in my opinion, is that game stuff is set and everything else is up in the air, and it usually works out well.
Do you think it's more important to have the set rules or to have the progression?
I have both. I mean, my two qualifiers are both. I mean,
we get both. But if there was one or the other, what would you think would be the most important?
As far as qualifying it as LitRPG, the game world, or having either game world or world of game mechanics, because that's the core foundation of it. The second part of it, the progression portion of it, which is as important as it. I don't have to choose. That's the RPG part of it. I mean, any kind of game mechanics you want in the world, but the RPG portion of LitRPG kind of inherently has a character progression power arc. You start at level 1, 0, and as you go through your story, your quest, whatever it is, you progress to become more powerful. And that's a common trait, not just in LitRPG, of course, but in fantasy, sci-fi, whatever the case is. That's often the hero story. And it's just in the case of LitRPG, we have definite quantifiers of that progression, whether it's XP, or it's increases in ranks, or it's increases in spirit power, whatever the case is, whatever game mechanics you're using, it's quantifiable. And so for a lot of readers, it feels more real because they also have a background of like, I understand that stuff that you're using, and I wish I could have its equal access to that power structure because I feel powerless in our world. And so the fact that in the story they love, that character has that opportunity feels satisfying. And
so I got another philosophical question for you. Which is better, the loot progression or the skill progression?
It kind of depends on the story. I prefer skill progression as like a reader and a writer because it's more permanent. Loot progression is temporary. You're always going to outgrow your gear as your story progresses. And so while loot can be cool, in every video game and RPG I've ever played, unless it's the one sword of power or the ring, destiny, whatever it is, like that, unique quest item, you're going to outgrow it. So I personally spend less time on loot items and more time on skill progressions, abilities, and increasing that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My kids fell.
I think they can hear each other. I think that's what it is. They're feeding off each other's energies.
Your kids hear my kids, or your kid hears my kids screaming.
They're like, hey, I hear them. Awesome. Okay, got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
Luke Chimilenko asks, describe the exact ritual that you use to obtain your speeding writing process. Jason Cipriano suggests something to do with goats. Harmon Cooper suggested it has something to do with a coffee enema.
It's just waking up really early in the morning and trying not to get on Facebook. And then I'm the only money maker in my family, so my wife doesn't work and my kids don't work. So if I don't have a book that does good, I can't pay my bills. So there's definitely a fire under my ass.
That'll be motivation.
Yeah, it's a job. It's just a job. I do work for myself, but it is a job, and I think a lot of people wouldn't work as hard for themselves as they would for someone else. If they've got the option to, you see a lot of times when someone hits it really big with one book and they just never come out with another book. And there could be the whole, I just can't write enough or whatnot, but I feel like if I worked a lot of hours on my previous job, now they weren't really all dense hours, but I was on the road 40 weeks a month, in these sales offices, working with these people.
A lot of time in.
Yeah, and I really did love my old job, but I was away from my family and it was tough. And so now I look at this author business like I am going to work as hard as I possibly need to, or harder, to not ever have to go back to that. Yeah. I love being around my family. I love being able to write stories. I love being able to reach out to readers and give them what they want. And I will work as many hours as it needs to. I'll wake up at 6. I'll go to bed at 11 or 12. I will do whatever I need to do. I'll outwork everyone else. I'll story everyone else. I'll do whatever I need to do to keep doing this. And if there's any way authors make money writing books, I will be doing it. I'll be the last guy to be oh, I can't. No one, authors aren't making any money anymore. Time to give it up. I'll hopefully be one of those last people that can do it. But as long as there's money to be made and I can pay my bills with working, 14 plus hours a day, I will keep doing that. You know?
Okay, those are great answers. I'm with you though. I'm more of a morning writer myself. Like I get up at like 5 in the morning. I used to work a night job where I would come in at 7 and go home. So it's real easy for me to get up at 5, just like knock out 4,000 words in like 3 or 4 hours, and then have my day to edit and do whatever else around the house I need to do. So there you go. So that is what it is. Last question from the audience. We have Jay Taylor again. He asks, if you had to use a single type of weapon from your books, a melee weapon, which one would you use?
Ooh, any of the weapons from the books. That's any of my books or just like Lion's Quest?
Oh, he didn't specify. That is a good point. He just said from your books. So I get it's broad enough. He should learn that you have to be specific.
I think the second Lion's Quest, the Darkest Death. You remember that, the staff that like could kill people and turn them undead? Like that's a pretty badass weapon.
Yeah, it's a little OP.
Yeah, it's pretty OP. Yeah, as soon as I wrote that, I was like, "There's no way he's keeping this weapon. Like, it's just there's no way he's gonna." With that, I mean, the disadvantages are pretty bad. He had to have a certain shadow rating to use it. But as soon as I wrote this out, I was like, "This is not." You know, so I don't know if you can tell, I really love loot. Like I love writing all the loot stuff and the stories behind them and all the stats and stuff. Like I just love every time I go to write a loot section of Lion's Quest, I'm like, yes, I get to write loot.
I like loot in that it's fun to have. When I'm writing them, I'm more invested in creating character skills that allows them to create loot or be creative or to be producers instead of just relying upon magic item number 3 that happens to get them out of the situation. To me, it's always more satisfying as a reader and writer to say this character used his ingenuity, he used his skills to get themselves out of this spot instead of this weapon of magical power that they happen to have. That always seems like a kind of a cheat, and but that's me.
Yeah, I think that the whole builder aspect of clever talents, one of my favorite parts. Favorite LitRPG books was like Delver's LLC, right? When he, I think it was Henry, he builds the bracer on his arm for the bullets. Oh, yeah. I read that scene. I like called up Blaze immediately. I was like, "This is the best scene I've ever read. It is so good," And Alron's got this the crafting smithing station where he makes the stuff with the orbs, and I'm like, this is so good. I love that. I don't have really any building stuff at Lion's Quest. It's more of a dungeon explorer, but I'd love to do a series where the characters build stuff and make things and do building. I would love.
They're absolutely. They're LitRPG series galore, or it's just crafting. I'd go with their solo series. Just look through a recommendation list. Look up crafting. There are lots of stories. It's just crafting because that's a game mechanic aspect of RPGs and video games where that's just so popular. I mean, I can tell you how many hours I spent in Warcraft and MMO where I'm just concerned with making stuff. And the number of hours I invested in just resource gathering and resource management and making things and just pressing a button for like an hour to create enough of it to get to the next skill level. And it's always satisfying. And I can't explain fully why it's just that progression. Like, if I put in the effort, I can grow in power. And whether it's going to be combat or crafting or social skills, I think that's a big draw for people.
I was never that kind of gamer. I love the dungeon exploring. I love the social stuff. But I've been playing Ark Survival. I don't know if you've seen that game where you're the flying dinosaurs. And we built like a huge base and like tamed all these dinosaurs, and I'm like, I love this shit. This is so cool. So I understand the building. It was never something I really thought I liked, but then once I read those parts in those books and I thought about it, I was like, I really do love the building and empire type stuff. And it's not, none of it's in Lion's Quest, and it probably won't ever be a series about that. It's more dungeon exploration, but I could do another series that does that. I'd love to.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because again, there's so many story aspects in LitRPG that are possible. It's a really open world, and it always stuns me why real authors, like people who've written 20 books, have such a hard time coming into the genre and writing a satisfying story. They write this other stuff great. It's just that the game mechanic stuff trips them up, and they just don't have the background. And when we first talked, and you told me like, "Oh, I have this huge gaming background." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I can tell." Your first was like game stuff. Like, it was real spot on. And you can usually tell when an author has that background, as opposed to just researching it or talking to their nephew about their gaming experiences.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely something to said about doing a lot of gaming, and not just I spent a lot of time doing role-playing games, but I played a lot of Asheron's Call 2 back in that. I did play on a free-for-all server, and like we had a guild and just killing people in PvP, and then I played like WoW, like not competitively, but did arenas with them, and I did all the dungeon raids, and then same thing with Guild Wars. I was in like a top 10 PvP guild with Guild Wars. My whole life has been filled with games, and I know your whole life has too. And when it wasn't games or role-playing games or video games, it was watching shows that had those elements in there. So like when I found out about LitRPG, I was like really giddy because I was like, I know I could write a great story that people would love. I just never thought people did it. Like I just never thought there was a thing like LitRPG. So I'm really happy that I wrote the Hell High series and people started buying it, because that's how I kind of discovered it. And I'm also really grateful for people like you and Alron and Blaze and Travis and Luke and all these authors that like I called up or had a conversation with them, like, how do I write in this genre? Like, what are the readers looking for? And you guys were all super nice and told me exactly what I needed to do. And you guys all read my books, like Betty read my books and gave me feedback. And it was like really just a great community of authors that helped me out. And I owe a ton of my success to all of you guys, in this genre, like really telling me what I should do or what I shouldn't do. So
yeah, right here we have a great community. Maybe because it's small right now. Like there are 4,000 people in the LitRPG Facebook group, and another couple thousand in LitRPG Society and LitRPG Books, and there are a few smaller RPG communities. But it really does feel like a smaller family. Even now, with the most recent like boom of new authors and new readers, it's still a very small community, and I owe all my success to them as well. Directly. So I hear what you're saying. So yeah, but I think that's part of the draw as well. Like we're all gamers. We live in a gamer society because most people about our age grew up on gaming, as opposed to 20, 30 years ago, video games didn't exist, or they were just nerd things people did on computers. And now it's everybody's growing up playing video games on the PC, consoles, whatever it is. And so there's a whole new generation of people growing up in their teens.
And a lot of people just don't have time to play anymore. Like they want to play a game, but they just don't. They can't play a game because it's so like I would love to play an MMO, but last time I played was Guild Wars, and it was like 4 or 5 hours every day just to keep up with like the status quo, and I just couldn't do that. And
this genre fills that role for you, doesn't it?
Totally. It totally does. So if all those readers out there that don't have time for an MMO, like you get your fix reading these books, and it's great.
Absolutely, and it'll become as big of an addiction because the literary version of those MMOs fulfill those desires. Because I remember like playing MMOs and thinking, "Oh, I wish I could live here." And I wish this would be a specific way, or I wish I could log into virtual reality when virtual reality become a thing. I wish I could just like plug in and like do the matrix of it, just like exist. And as much as I love MMOs and video games, the technology is never going to fulfill that fantasy. Yeah. But the novels do. Yeah. Because there's just so much more room for creativity and expression, and you can have the weirdest game mechanics in the universe, and it'll work within your universe as long as you set it up correctly.
Totally. It's great. It's a really fun genre. I'm happy I get to be part of it.
Yeah, I'm happy that you're part of it. So that kind of ends the interview. We finished it. I think it's been long enough, 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's so long.
Both our wives came back from like trying to entertain the kids for a while. Like,
I told my wife, I'm like, it's only gonna be an hour. Go ahead and be gone. But
oh no, I mean sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's kind of long when you have a nice conversation going. But sorry, dear. Okay, that's it. Anything I haven't included in the interview? Anything you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, so we're doing make sure people go to my Facebook page and follow me on Facebook, or if you go to michaelscottearle.com, one word, I give away my short novel Roseboy. You can get that for free, and I also have a ship designed concept art for my Star Justice series. You can get all those high-res pictures for free. And I'm going to be doing a box of signed LitRPG book giveaway for some of your favorite LitRPG authors are going to be in this box. So if you're following my Facebook, I'll have a link to that in the next couple of weeks, and you can win a box of I think 20 signed LitRPG books from your favorite authors. That's pretty, including yours, will be in there. No.
So there you go. Yep. So awesome. That's perfect. Again, that's michaelscottearle.com. Where I have a link in the show notes for Michael's Facebook page, Twitter. And his website. I forgot to ask you, do you use what do you call it, newsletters or?
Yeah. When I sign up for my newsletter, I do. That's probably the best way to get all my stuff. I post on Facebook every now and then, but my newsletter, I do a newsletter like every week or so, and I always have like either a really stupid joke or I talk about what I was doing last week. I went to a car show a couple weeks ago, so I'll probably have a bunch of pictures from a car show there. I just film my newsletters with like, this is what I did this week. Isn't this cool? And then check out my books. And I also do cross promotion stuff with other authors that come out with new books. I try to put their books on my newsletter so we get exposed to new readers.
That's cool. See, me personally, I find newsletters and like mailing lists less important than social media, just because social media kind of taken that place of like an easy way of connecting to your particular audience, the people who like your stuff. They can just get it in their feed instead of getting it through their email or like trying to get through their spam filter or especially your actual mailing list. It's
tough because the Facebook restrictions on your website, your business Facebook page now. So, I mean, even if people watch my Facebook page, they might not see posts from it because Facebook filters it. What they do is they charge me. I have to pay. You could come to my Facebook page and like my Facebook page, but actually I have to pay money for you to see my posts. That's just how they monetized it. Unless I think you're probably using your personal account.
You mean like an actual business, like Facebook account?
Yeah, I got like an author business Facebook account. And I could use my personal one, but like I have all the pictures of my kids on there and my wife posts like where we're at and stuff. And like I guess I don't really need.
Yeah, I have a personal Facebook page, but I also created an author page.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to be a different kind of account, but I mean, I advertise it. I have an author. It creates it as an author page, and I have one for the podcast and one for the writer's shop, and I do pretty stuff. But for me, the biggest draw, I mean, this is just me. I produce content for free, and so that kind of draws people into the other stuff that I do.
So people should support you on Patreon.
Absolutely, and when you create your Patreon, they should support you as well.
Yep. Awesome.
Support a couple of struggling authors, folks, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
There you go. Okay, so that's kind of it, folks. Again, we have all the links around the show. Every place you can find Michael Scott Earle, including all the Amazon stuff, all the Facebook website, Twitter, author pages, links to all of this stuff. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out. And Michael, thank you very much for talking to me. If you want to give the audience a quick goodbye, we'll end this particular podcast.
Bye, guys. Have fun. Have a good weekend. Take care. Enjoy the books.
Okay, thanks everybody again for I'm Ramon Mejia from the LitRPG Podcast, and until we can hang out again, remember, folks, to go read some LitRPG. Goodbye, everybody.